Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our Arc 6 reads of ReZero. Sorry for the last minute we couldn't do it on Wednesday, but thank you guys for letting us rest up. Super, super helpful. We got a packed day for you today. We got 4 chapters rolling in. Thankfully, they're a lot shorter than normal, so we're able to do this. Thank you guys so much for being here. We have some great news coming up in the next few weeks. We are still holding our Arc 7 auditions, so if you haven't auditioned yet, please go check that out. I'm going to put the links in a second. You have till June 27th at 3 p.m. EST. We won't accept anything afterwards. We'll lock it down. And then we're going to reveal our casting shortly after that, so we will not cast anyone until we are done the casting process. Other than that, I'm still trying my best to get out our podcast episode. I am so sorry. I am so behind. But my goal is to at least get one out this weekend for us. I keep saying that every weekend. Don't hate me. Without further ado, we are going to, I'm going to bring in the cast. Uno momento. Let me see if I can get their stuff up today. Actually, I'm going to do it before they all go, hello, hello. Main cast. How's everybody doing today? Welcome. And welcome to our new viewers as well. It's good to have you here. Okay, let's see. All right. Hello. You can keep talking, just making sure you knew that, hey, coming in.
Oh, hello there.
I'm going to try see if I can get the Discord side of things open and on. If it wants to work today. Not yet. Not yet. For context for our viewers, they're talking smack.
Than the addition was, just because of how many times he uses the word prick.
No, that's fine.
I think that's authentic.
Y'all are live.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Yay.
Welcome in, everyone. Can you all hear us?
Yes, they should now. Just no music for Kyle's today. Boo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just put an earbud in and play it off your phone.
I don't have that. Anyways, welcome in, everybody. I'm adjusting our audio as we go. We have a pretty big cast here today, so without further ado, Al, take us away.
Hello everyone, I am Al. Today I am doing absolutely nothing. I'm Snork Mimimi.
Yay! And
Everyone's
Al-
picking up the slack for me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Connor. I am your Julius and Rom for the live recordings and one of the hosts of the ReZero podcast. And I have now successfully put Al back in the basement. It took a while. We needed a break for it.
What the fuck?
That's why I've done
How
nothing.
operations like this?
I didn't want to say it.
We're glad to have you here, Al. Hi everyone, I'm Drad, and I think I'll only be narrating the last chapter today. I will double check right now. Thanks for reminding me.
I think there's a Patricia line.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Greeny, one of the editors of Studio Reverie, and yeah, I'm just here supporting.
Just here vibing.
Tempting to do something, actually. Wait a minute.
I think it's you, Common.
Hello, I am Carmen. I am your lovely Melee, as always, and also very, very tired.
Good morning. I'm Kyle's. Thank you, Jack, for the donation, by the way, and all the memberships. I'm your Amelia. I'm covering for Shala and Anastasia, although I don't think Anna has a lot of lines today. So that's good, because I'm terrible at her voice.
Lies, but go on.
I'm Pat. I'm so happy to be here. I'm voicing the swinger out the sticks, Reed. So, yeah,
I'm happy.
Welcome
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
So good to be back.
You've not been on since Arc 2, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I've even been on Arc 2.
He's here.
So, like, it's been a while.
Wow,
I've,
Arc 5 then.
I've been gone a long time.
The prophesized return.
His return.
RBD. Thank you, Greenie.
Hello, everybody. I am Tealdi. I am stand-in Beatrice. Today I am also doing one little echidna line, and I shall be narrating a chapter.
Woohoo. Wolf is coming.
And hello, everyone. Wolf here. I'm your Subaru. I'm also a co-host of the ReZero podcast, and I'm excited to yell today. Whee!
I can't wait to adjust your gain 1,000,000 times in one sentence.
Get to work audio engineering.
It's going to be a busy day today, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I think Gold is supposed to also be with us today. Hold the phone. When is he supposed to read?
Wait.
I bet it's the first chapter.
It's the first chapter. I'm pretty
Go
sure
I
it's
am
the
ready
first.
to come in. It's okay.
Okay, maybe we'll switch your chapters
Tag me
out.
in, coach.
Tag
It's the
in!
first chapter.
It's the first chapter.
I don't know why I did that. I know Gold. I don't know why I did that. Good
It's
morning.
okay.
Okay, Tealdi, we're gonna put you in.
Yeah. Tag me in, coach. I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay.
T-A-E-L-D-I. And Gold will be 29. Beautiful.
And Drad, you're doing 30, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Good one.
Skuro was in the last reading. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Guys
played
moving up in the world. A clansman.
yeah, one of the witch's dads, I think.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
Proud of you, dude.
Thank you, Zoc, as well. Thank you, thank you. I don't
Yeah,
think
thanks
we
a lot, Zoc.
have. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't think we have any more announcements besides just keep auditioning and podcast. I will hopefully have it out.
The Reddit thing?
this
No?
week.
Oh,
It hasn't been official yet.
No, I said nothing.
No,
disregard,
we
delete this from the VOD.
You know what? We are
No good.
looking into partnering up with the ReZero subreddit. So we got a intriguing message from one of the moderators. So they're gonna see what's up, and then we might be collaborating with them a little bit, as well as we might also be collaborating a little bit with the ReZero Discord for our auditions. But we're still waiting to hear back about that. So yay! I'm gonna upload to Spotify after I'm done teaching this year, because I have too much on my plate, and I think that would put me over the edge. But this summer I have nothing to do, so I have no excuse. Yay!
Surely.
Woo!
Teaching has some benefits.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
Did you already explain the 4 chapters today while we were deafening?
Not fully. So look, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was Wolf and I were sick on Wednesday, so we delayed a bit. And then after we were going through the chapters, we found that 2 of them were actually a bit shorter than normal. So we just decided to do this kind of whole mini arc within the phase moments together and give you guys a treat and technically do 4 chapters today. So hope you are comfortable, you've got some water, sit back and relax, because this might be a bit.
A tweet.
Have some popcorn.
Yeah, popcorn
Right in
too.
the gauntlet.
Oh, absolutely.
Now I want popcorn.
Daldy, what is your go-to, like potato chips that you usually have when...
Yeah,
long
if I'm doing
sessions?
long bits, you need the potato chips because the grease in it helps counteract the drying effect of drinking too much water on your throat.
Mm-hmm. Retweet.
The more you know.
And you beat me to my next point. Our auditions for Arc 7 are still open. We've gotten a lot so far, mostly thanks to Tealdi hitting every character.
Do use more.
We got some
What's
femme
that, 40
voices.
something raw auditions?
Oh, thank God.
We got some women in the chat.
Yeah, we
We're
got
not
like
just
two.
carrying it.
Oh, thank the Lord!
Hey, look, 2 is better than
checked.
0.
We
Hey,
got two.
That's so many.
we're adding to the roster.
I know.
We might have
And
been.
people are still auditioning.
Yeah, we might have been debated by one of them to tricked into proving that we watched her audition, but it's all good. Everything has been great so far, and
Yeah, they really
we're going to
got
be
it.
going in for another month and a half for these, right? End of June
Yes,
was the plan.
June 27th at 3 p.m. EST. That is the last day I teach. So I will be rip-roaring drunk and listening to auditions with
Sounds
the
like a
team.
party.
It's going to be a party. It's going to be excellent.
We'll have a callbacks party.
Oh, yes, of course. It'll be callbacks, and then we'll make our main cast. So keep your eyes out. If you have been shortlisted, you have a high chance of being invited for the callbacks. So if you do get that notification, there you go.
Yay.
Yay!
Lied. There's 4
Oh,
since
yeah.
I last checked. Holy shit.
Don't.
4. That's double. That's double the amount, guys. We have 4 women.
I haven't even checked our emails yet.
Yeah, it's not even. The
I
direct
don't
submissions
even
either.
know that amount of women.
Are there that
Wait,
many?
there's like 6 of us on Reverie.
I was about to say.
I was gonna say
but
there's
maybe
there's three in the call.
Just some don't show up.
I mean,
Listen,
okay, that
Maybe-
means he,
Maybe
he
that's
knows
just how
his
many
mom,
women
and
there
that's
are in
it.
Ireland. Okay?
4 is more than 3.
That's
Right?
Still
Yes.
feeling the
Yeah.
still feeling
Okay,
the
he
effects
just
of Ivan's
knows his
bonuses
mom.
raids.
You are right in the right mindset to be the Swix singer. Wow.
Stick stinger.
Yeah,
Words
'cause
are
I know how to
happening.
swing a stick.
I have been awake for a while, actually, and I've had a full breakfast. I shouldn't be this brain dead right now. I
Well,
ate hollandaise.
One last thing, Connor. Don't forget to brag about the amazing thing you did for one of the chapters today.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Oh, I guess I did that to us, not
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah,
well,
brag
Yeah,
about
brag.
We have a name chapter today. I was excited, so I retranslated the entire thing from scratch, and I'm very pleased with the result.
Yay.
Yay, Julius Jaculius.
Hell yeah.
Hells yeah. All right, without further ado, are we ready to get started?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Yes, boss.
I think this is the longest chapter.
It is.
I got it.
Hell yeah, Daily Lock in.
Coyote's rubbing her
Always.
hands together. She's like, "Oh yeah."
Oh, here we go.
This is where the fun begins.
Yeah.
This is where the fun begins.
Ooh, that actually did crack. Ow. Okay.
Oh my god, are you okay?
Nah. Yeah, I'm fine. Just a fingy. It's
Oh,
fine. They
just
do that
like
a lot.
flesh
It's
wound.
fine. All right. Arc 6, Chapter 27, Electra's Wall. A woman, a soul woman existed. The woman was a commonplace village girl, one with an ordinary birth and growth. Loved by her parents, loved by her siblings, the woman too loved her family. She was an extremely normal woman. With a fiancé decided by her household, she would end her established lifetime in a corner of a poor village, identical to many other village girls. For the woman, that meant life, the paved order of things having no room for doubt. Such ordinariness of the woman was crushed at the hands of sleazy, powerful men who appeared in the village. What made her fit? Or was it merely the vice of humans, unknowing of the eventual truth? The woman was coercively desired by the powerful men. No matter it being a poor village of a small country, there existed a disparity impossible to eliminate with the powerful men. The woman was unable to oppose the demand of the powerful men. She had no choice but to yield to the irrationality of fate. However, the woman was loved by her family, by her fiancé, by the people of her village. Braving the oppression of the powerful men, the people's rage flared up, giving birth to flames of war before long. The fire spread. The residents of the village organized into an army, and at last, the powerful men, along with the small castle, were scorched to the ground. In naught but a single evening, the woman's position changed vastly. A mere ordinary village girl, her fiancé the ringleader of a single group of troops. The raging of the unremitting blaze. The surrounding ones who regarded that as hazardous turned to their own troops from one to the next. That proved as being beaten at their own game for those who roused themselves, claiming it was all for the sake of the woman. The fire spread whilst the flames of war coruscated, burning the small country, neighboring countries, and a great country to nothing before long. The existence of the woman, who was made to be the origin of it all, was renowned. The people rumored her to be a beautiful maiden of the heavens. Illusions piled over illusions, and due to the interest and expectations, the woman's petite body was about to shatter. Nobody took notice of that. Neither her family, nor her fiancé, nor the people. No one was looking at the woman. Cheers when she moved a hand, stampedes when she walked a street, cheers of joy when she spoke a word, were all turned towards the woman. This is strange. You're wrong. Shrouding her face, she denied that this was not possible, that this was not supposed to be. She was a mere village girl herself, neither a beauty of the heavens nor a charming siren, but a single, meager village girl, wherein her lay such worth. The people were intoxicated with dreams, misled by illusions, dancing with ideals. Before long, without adhering to any curtailments, even a great country was burnt to ash with the woman at its origin. The ruined great country, the robbed castle, at its summit, the fiancé knelt before the woman and informed her. I love you. This triumph, the smiles of all the people, are all things given by you. The flaring royal capital, heaps of corpses, the people trembling, moved with ecstasy. The villagers she lived with too, the family who loved her too, the fiancé who wished for well-being too. No longer was anyone anywhere. Without responding to the fiancé, the woman left, abandoning her family, the villagers, anything and everything. She was not supposed to have been bestowed with it. Never had she wished for it. The woman merely lost everything. Having lost the days she was loved, which certainly existed, the woman, alone, proceeded to the burnt fields. Yet the dreams, the illusions, the ideals did not let the woman escape. Wherever she proceeded to, anyone and everyone loved the woman, devoted themselves to the woman, desired the woman. Everything was brought to ruin. Anyone and everyone loved this woman, like a curse, whilst unaware of true love inside. The witch of lust sought the love she lost, and continued to be loved by the love-summoning ruin. The swordsmanship brimming out of him pierced without restraint towards Subaru and the others who had challenged Electra. The man was garbed in a crimson robe, with both of his arms outside of his sleeves, and his upper torso lay bare other than the sarashi wrapped around it. There was a glint of madness in the stick swinger's eyes after he'd given them that dire proclamation. The examination of the second floor, which in short was making their examiner, the stick swinger, recognize their qualifications to proceed to the upper floor. That had already ended up with 2 people dropping out due to the atypical skill of the man. Even under these conditions, Emilia had somehow managed to snatch away victory thanks to her fighting strength, along with her characteristic pluckiness, tenacity, and use of numerous weapons. However,
Didn't the conditions say that it's fine if just one person clears it?
Huh? Who the fuck said that? Stop pulling stuff out of your ass, you prick. Why would it be that if one person can go up, then all the rest of you can? Use your common sense. Use it. It's the inside of your head also like that of a small fry, you prick.
You're saying this to the guy who wants to be told about common sense, the least in the world!
Brew groaned at the perfectly reasonable point which the man had made, who had now crossed his chopsticks over, one held in each hand, with a clack. In actual fact, the one who had jumped to conclusions about the clear conditions of the examination had been Subaru himself. The examination on the third floor had involved solving a puzzle, and, once solved, the structure of the room itself had changed. So it was possible to say that he had jumped to that conclusion. He had incorrectly assumed that a new library would materialize if one of them cleared the examination of the second floor. If his assumption had collapsed and clearing the examination did require each of their strengths in battle, then it was pretty safe to say that beating this examination would be futile. The condition which Amelia had managed to achieve, namely, to move the man even one step, they had seen now just how hard achieving that was in stark contrast to its seeming simplicity. Speaking clearly about it, Amelia was currently the strongest amongst everyone who had come to challenge Pleiades' watchtower, aside from Julius. Though, as long as Julius's contract with his quasi-spirits was gone, he could objectively say that she was the strongest amongst them. The man had been extremely negligent in their first bout, and that had ended up allowing Amelia to defeat him. In short, they had pitted their strongest force against their enemy when he was at his weakest. They had managed to beat him once, but now that it had become a tournament where everyone had to beat him, they would have to pit everyone else, with less fighting prowess, against this man who had no more chinks in his armor. Move the man one step. Were they really going to be able to achieve a victory like the one Amelia had snatched away, born out of a combination of good fortune and an attack of that caliber?
Wait up, in fact. There's a key mistake in what you're saying, I suppose.
A mistake.
Shuddering at the prospect, Subaru tried to look for a glimmer of victory amidst their terrible predicament. Beatrice, who was right beside him, firmly squeezed his hand to calm him down and spoke out to the man. The man grew sullen as he heard her words and pointed his uncovered eye towards Beatrice.
What are you saying, you twat? You've come 10 years too early, you twat. No, at least 5, you twat. You can come here after your legs, arms and body grow, and after you get some tits and ass, you twat.
I never had any intentions of playing along with your crap, but right now you've made me part of those intentions completely, in fact. That's why I'm going to knock this into that thick skulls of yours, I suppose.
My thick skull? The fuck you mean?
It's already been decided, in fact. Amelia told you if you were moved even one step, then it'd be our victory, I suppose. In other words, Amelia's victory was a victory for all of us, in fact.
Subaru held his breath and instinctively looked over at Amelia. He had never expected that she would have planned that far ahead during their brash negotiations. He was surprised by the shrewish nature she concealed underneath. From the corner of his eye, Amelia placed her hand against her mouth and said,
"Oh."
No, she wasn't shrewish. She was pure. She was EMT.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I did say that. I did say our. How about it? When you take that into consideration, doesn't that mean we've all passed your examination?
That's an issue of semantics, you twat. It doesn't mean that at all.
Oh, I see. Subaru, Beatrice, I'm sorry. You said it's not going to work.
You're giving up too quickly, I suppose.
Beatrice yelled out at Amelia, who had dropped her shoulders in a crestfallen fashion and signaled her giving up with a meek look on her face. Although, Subaru too had thought it an unreasonable turn of wit once he stopped to think about it. And that was because he had been in so much despair about the height of the wall in front of them that he had wanted to cling onto that possibility.
Well, there's some sense to what the runt's saying. I also seem to remember that at first it was that you can take as many people as you wish, so long as you try and get past me. Though following the rules is kinda boring, so I had to drag myself awake.
When you say you had to drag yourself awake, you mean that stuff at the beginning was you hacking the system?
I don't know, you prick. Use words I can understand, you prick. We ain't talking like that person with white hair at a young age, you prick.
The man kept flitting back and forth between good and bad moods. As Subaru nodded lazily at the man's words to show he was paying attention, he managed to deduce something about the system part of the examination, something about the man's true nature. His deduction came from observing the examinations on the third and second floor, and then from observing the stuff which the man, who seemed to be devoid of sanity, said following his appearance and his behavior after. His inference was drawn from the things that felt out of place from each of those points. In short, there was a vital discrepancy between the original examination and the examination that was going on now.
So, basically, it should have been an examination where things would have been fine if everyone worked together to fulfill its condition. But because you woke up, now we each have to fulfill the condition?
How's if I know, you prick? But I ain't got a clue which one of them would have been easier. No idea out of killing me using all your combined efforts, or letting me fondle your tits and hitting me once would have been easier.
Don't you go saying such careless things, you perverted bastard! I'll shut you right up!
Subaru reached out for his whip so that he could lash out at him in anger for his callous words. He pulled it out from the back of his waist and cracked it as fast as he could, using only his forearm. However, the man easily caught the whip, which should have been traveling nigh at the speed of sound, in between his chopsticks, and gave it a shake. The chances that he would have been able to hit him had been low, but his surprise attack had ended up failing so spectacularly.
I didn't think you were the type to be swinging sticks. But really, a whip, you prick. What kind of taste that, you prick? Whiplashes are only good for your enemies. And your woman.
It sure as hell looks like you're my enemy, though! Besides, I plan to go up the bases properly when it comes to Amelia, and that leaves me no options for using whips before going through them all!
We're down, in fact. I can barely understand what you're saying, I suppose. And what's more, you're getting swept up by the enemy's pace, in fact.
That's right, Subaru. You mustn't get so upset. He just touched my chest. It smelled like he did anything weird.
That is something weird, Amelia-ton!
In general, it is something to get upset at, you smoking hottie.
Both the man and Subaru replied to Amelia, who had been trying to calm them down at the same time. Amelia widened her eyes at their in-sync suggestions, and Beatrice gave a deep sigh.
I wonder, may I say something really quickly?
After keeping her silence for so long, someone finally spoke out in a trembling voice over to the four of them, who had been caught up in their exchange, now all looking rather taken aback.
I don't like saying this, but I think we should turn back.
The little girl who had spoken out and lifted her tiny hand up had dark blue braided hair. Maylee. She slowly shook her head, still perched on Shala's shoulders, who had crumpled down to her knees and fainted. Maylee's olive green eyes were full of unmistakable fear of the man reflected in them, who stood further at the back, but yet she spoke.
I don't know how you can speak so fluidly with that Kai Onisan, our knightly Onisan, our scarf-wielding Onesan, and even our naked Onesan have been hurt by him.
Out of them. Sure, it did collapse because of other reasons, but it's definitely weird.
Though Maylee's view was pessimistic, her assessment was natural when taking into account their current fighting strength. Rather, it was Subaru that, in trying to remain here and continue their challenge, had completely lost his composure. They'd been completely flattened by the stick swinger's swordsmanship. He had been unable to remain objective with how much influence Anastasia and Julius's collapse and the sexual harassment of Amelia had had on him. However,
This is just hypothetically speaking, but if we were to leave and come back again later, would you still recognize her victory?
he could even say that his sportsmanship in having recognized Amelia clearing the examination was unretractable. But even though he had shown as such, the other parts that came along with it were not so easy to understand. Even in carrying out Meili's reasonable conclusion, if their opponent did not accept it, then they would not be able to avoid having to fight. Up until a short while ago, their opponent had taken care not to kill them. But now that he was behaving like he had just shifted up a gear, they had no surefire guarantee that their lives would not be in danger the next time they challenged him. If it came to that, then challenging him would be out of the question. Instead, he would have to use every last inch of his strength to get them out of here. Without any exaggeration, the stick swinger's true strength approached cataclysmic levels. He had made short work of Julius with his chopsticks, fought with Amelia, and still had plenty of energy left to spare. His true strength was, without exaggeration, Reinhard grade. What sort of intention did this tower's overlord have in placing such a monster here? It seemed to him like they had no intention of letting it be cleared, when taking into account the solution to the constellation theme puzzle of the third floor as well.
Well, what will it be?
Shifting his heels as he showed signs of his patience running out, he approached the collapsed figures of Julius and Anastasia. Taking notice of what Subaru was doing, Beatrice and Amelia subtly took up their positions as well. If the stick swinger bared his fangs, Amelia would once again instantly cast her icicle line, and they would have no choice but to pick up the three that had collapsed using Beatrice's Murrock and sprint away. In the worst case, he would have to consider casting the yet incomplete third trump card with Beatrice as well.
Enough.
Huh?
Enough. Enough, 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 enough. I ain't in the mood for this.
The man abruptly spat out at them as they steeled their mind and body wholeheartedly onto their escape plan. As they ogled at his childish nature, the man put his arm back in his left sleeve again and straightened up his robe back to how he had first worn it. Then he started to walk away moodily, away from Subaru and the others who remained on their guard. He grumpily made his way to the sword of selection which had been kicked away. The man stepped on the fallen sword, flicked it up, and lazily took hold of it. Then he vigorously thrust its tip down onto the white floor, and the sword returned to the same state it had been when the examination had started. And then...
I'm closing up shop. Scram, you pricks. I'm tired of this. Hurry the hell up.
He plopped down on the spot with a thunk and spat those words out, sitting with one knee raised up.
Wait! You're free-reading far too much! What the hell is this about? Are you really just going to haphazardly decide the particulars of the examination, depending on your mood?
You sure are a noisy prick. The discretion here's been left to me from the start, you prick. If I say no, then it's a no.
Subaru instinctively became speechless at hearing his arrogant manner of speaking. At Subaru's surprise, the man continued with,
When I don't feel like doing something, I don't mess about. So are you gonna do what I said, you prick?
Subaru's whole body was bathed in chills from an intense gust of wind whooshing by. The man had cast aside all of his weapons and even tucked away his chopsticks in his bosom pocket. And his lips had curled. It did certainly look like a smile, but it was of a different nature to the one which he had been showing so far. Ferocious as it was no smile that gave off a sunny atmosphere. Rather, his smile was like that of a crazed beast exuding a dark, sanguine, gruesome intent to kill.
Uh,
A small groan could be heard. Not from Subaru, but from Amelia, who should have been by his side. She had one of her hands against her pale throat, and her jewel-like eyes were widened in surprise. Her knees fell from beneath her, and she sank down onto the floor. It was as if she had noticed in that moment that she was unable to stand up by herself and forgotten how to breathe. And it was the same for Subaru as well, who had suddenly become aware of his breathing as soon as he saw Amelia's reaction. Before he could even notice, Subaru had dropped to his knees in pain, and his whole body was drenched in sweat. He was in the same state as Amelia. No, he was worse off than her. He had been completely daunted by the man's presence. It was as if he had started to forget even that his heart was beating, and that he was starting to be killed. If there had been no one around to make him remember about that, he would have died from the power in the man's eyes alone.
Go rack your brains and see if you can find a way to win, you prick. The same trick the smoking hottie used ain't gonna cut it. Now, not even if the sleeping sexy woman. Now get out of my sight. I'm hitting the sack.
His voice grew low, indicating he was not messing about when he said that, and following that, his head dozily jerked down. After a little bit, they could gradually hear the man snoring, which sounded as deafening as him when awake. In that sense, his loud snoring was not at all contrary to his personality. However, none of those who were left standing here were able to laugh about it.
Let's turn back from here as quickly as possible.
He wanted to leave this place as quickly as possible. Making good on Meili's words, who had insisted they do just that, Subaru and the others slowly grabbed their fallen members and were forced to retreat from the examination.
I see. So that is the reason why you scurried back looking so glum from the second examination.
As harsh as ever, eh, Naysummer?
Stop talking like that. Every time you do, the Master Sama theory of the sleeping woman holds more weight to it.
That's crazy talk! Mind what you say.
Ram gave a short sigh as he feebly shrugged his shoulders at her unappealing warning. They were on the 4th floor, in the room adjacent to the green room. Subaru and Ram were vis-a-vis with each other, and Amelia, Beatrice, and Meili were there too. The number became 6 with the inclusion of Shala, who they had rolled in here as the final member. The group had climbed down the long, long staircase and fled the 2nd floor. First thing they had done was carry their wounded to the green room and entrust them to the spirit's treatment. Their diagnosis on the way was that Julius had simply only fainted, whereas with Anastasia, the underlying reason was exhaustion due to having used too much magic. In all, their lives were not in danger. Therefore, they had placed them in bed and moved rooms with Ram so that he could explain the situation to her. That, and to get around the room's people limit as well. However,
I heard there was a ridiculous examiner too, but it was just Amelia Sama that was acknowledged by him, right? Was it not possible for just one person to see the library?
That's...
Oh, I hadn't thought about that now that you mention it. Right, I may have been able to go up to the 1st floor if it was just me. Should we try asking the stick swinger's son if I can?
No, let's not. I don't want to start up the hornet's nest and risk him getting irritated again. And even if he told Emiliaton that she can go up by herself, that would be dangerous.
I'll be really careful, you know?
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous, I suppose.
Subaru, Ram, and Beatrice immediately put a damper on Amelia's determination. Amelia dejectedly stood down after she heard their concerns. But it was not like Subaru had been stamping out her willingness out of being overprotective. Right now, he wished to not aggravate that stick swinger for no good reason. This he was absolutely sure about. It was true that he felt like he wanted to say something to that untrammeled individual. but it would be suicidal to challenge him when he was in a bad mood, regardless of when the examination would recommence. And the fact was that, right now, they had not even seen the man taking up the sword, even if only Amelia had been able to get past that man.
I'm doubtful about whether the examination of the second floor truly is just that one part. He could easily be playing us for No. It may just seem like that to me, because Amelia Town overcame it without much issue. But I wonder, if that's truly the end of it, that's what's weighing on my mind.
I think you're thinking too much about it. That individual, though the things he says may be a little strange and rude, somehow it doesn't seem like he'd lie. No, it's because it seems like he's a person who can't lie.
The jury split right through the middle here on whether it's just you having faith in him, or good shrewdness being the reason he can't tell lies.
Whatever the case might be, he had no grounds to brush aside Amelia's point. If anything, he agreed with the assessment she had given regarding that stick swinger. Were he to look at it from a different angle, the reason she had overcome the examination so readily could also be because Amelia was the strongest out of them. So when it came to Julius right now, the fact that he had collapsed meant that...
I hope he's not depressed as hell about it.
Are you worried about Julius?
I'm not entirely sure. I guess I'm worried, but it's not as simple as that.
Julius's mano a mano with the stick swinger, his subsequent defeat, and his beaten figure had been seared into his mind. He probably was not overthinking his anxiety when he looked back on how Julius had looked in his last moments. His skill with the sword had been nowhere near his opponent's. He had been toyed with like it had been child's play. And in the end, even his knight sword had been broken.
There's another sword in our dragon carriage, but that isn't going to be the issue here, I imagine.
Swords can be reforged. I really don't get all the fuss, I suppose.
But, Bayako, don't you take good care of the handkerchief and mittens and apron I made for you? What I'm saying is that those things are more special, and it's as if they were torn.
I apologize for saying something so stupid, in fact.
Beatrice meekly took back her Cal's remark, and Subaru stroked her head, letting out a sigh. It was hard to imagine how Julius would react upon waking up in the green room. Even though he did not know whether he would get depressed, unlike his usual self, or whether he would try to act strong like he usually did, Subaru had no clue what he would say to him when he eventually did. For that reason, he was feeling quite downhearted, and when it came to things to worry about, that did not stop only with Julius.
Anastasia, Echidna's... that desperation. What on earth was she thinking?
One doubt that firmly clung to Subaru's mind was Anastasia, or rather, Aridna's decision when she had butted in Julius's duel with the stick swinger and provided him support. There was no question that, in that moment, she had been providing backup for Julius. The reason why she had tried her utmost to help him when he had been overwhelmed like that was one which everyone, including Subaru, would have been feeling as well. Nevertheless, touching on the matter briefly, what Echidna had done, considering that she was moving about using Anastasia's body, who had remained a bystander in all this, went beyond being surprising and more so warranted fright. Even during their journey and after arriving at the watchtower, Echidna had not forgotten to behave like Anastasia. She kept asserting that she would do her very best to act with due consideration for her body. He had figured that, at least in his eyes, she would not have turned against that. What meaning did she have in coming here and all of a sudden behaving like that?
That girl's indisposition is gravely different to a little overuse of magic, I suppose.
Then, what is it?
Beatrice was the only one who shared knowledge of the situation regarding Anastasia and Echidna, and she quietly whispered those words into the brooding Subaru's ear. When Subaru posed his question, Beatrice continued her words by saying,
Put it simply, Bubby, Betty, and that scarf are special among spirits, in fact. We're all more powerful than lots of other spirits, but we make up for it by having other restrictions instead, I suppose. I needn't have to explain it to you now, in fact.
Since you wanted me all to yourself when I signed a contract with you, I can't sign a contract with other spirits. You can rest assured that I'm yours, Bearco.
It's nothing as cheerful as that, I suppose. This is more about that scarf spirit, in fact. It's true that she's borrowing that girl's body, but I realized something as we made our way here, I suppose. That girl has no magic to her which she can use other than her odd, in fact.
None other than her ode?
She's the same as you. There's a defect in her gate, I suppose. Its valve is broken, and its ability of drawing in mana from the outside is ruined, in fact. So she can't use magic unless she whittles down her own life, I suppose.
Then that means
It can be fatal. Subaru gulped at that realization. Subaru was in shock of the problems Anastasia's body bore. They would be severe handicaps in a world like this. He recalled the words which Anastasia, or rather Aridna, had said before. My trump card whittles at my body. She had meant those words literally. And now that this fact had become clear, Subaru had ended up becoming more and more bewildered. If in fact Echidna's misuse of Anastasia's body had been for nothing other than to shorten her host's life, then
why did she consistently try to help Julius?
it did not appear like it had been something she had done out of some intricate plan. Undoubtedly, taking this risk from worry of Julius's condition must have been behind that act of desperation. Was Echidna attracted to Julius? Was that one of the powers of his divine protection of gathering spirits as well?
I am worried about Anastasia Sama and the Knight Julius as well, but we have other issues that we need to deal with, don't we?
I guess you mean that stick swinger.
That is correct. It may seem cold-hearted, but for me, what we shall do about the examination is more important. If we cannot get past that, then we will not find a way to get Rem back.
Ram interrupted Subaru's thoughts and, in a sense, voiced quite a cold-hearted opinion. Just as she had acknowledged, her words were a little lacking in consideration. But Subaru was not going to blame her for that. He could not see it, but he could feel a tinge of irritation concealed behind Ram's stiff expression. Likely due to frustration that the possibility of getting her lost younger sister back was now an arm's reach away, and yet it remained so far still. Subaru could sympathize with that.
He dressed casually, had an eye patch, red hair, blue eyes. He had an awfully self-assertive, violent physique, though.
Did anyone familiar come to your mind? If you don't see the real thing, you probably won't be able to imagine him. But he's with no exaggeration, as strong as a monster. Maybe around Reinhard grade.
A real nightmare, huh?
Though what Subaru is saying is no lie. I've never seen Reinhardt's true strength. But, well, I think he was that level of strength.
Emilia followed up Ram's words, detailing her thoughts having actually fought the man. There was no benefit in telling lies here. From her judgment, Ram wearily placed her hand against her forehead and said,
If we put confidence in Barasu and Emilia Sama's words, then our enemy is of the same caliber as the Knight Reinhard. If they are truly equal to the world's strongest man, as you say, then there is one that is at least close to his level in every country of the world.
So, essentially, Reinhard is the strongest in the kingdom, and each of the other 3 countries have their own strongest?
In the Valachian Empire, there is the First General, the Blue Lightning, Cecilis Segment. In the Holy Kingdom of Gesteco, there is the Mad Prince, And in the Kararagi city-states, there is the admirer, Hannibal. But each have different traits to them.
None of them have long red hair?
I'm not sure because we only do not know what the Holy Kingdom of Gisteco's Mad Prince looks like.
Prince? A prince? Huh? I guess he didn't give off that kind of vibe.
But then he was not so sure if he was a complete mismatch with that individual when he took into account the mad part. Although he had quite handsome features, he could not say he had any royal elegance to him. It was the sort of beauty one would find in the plains, the kind one would find in the wilderness. So it was a work of art of the kind that was permitted.
And, to add to that, he's a master of martial arts whose name isn't known in the world.
Clothes he was wearing were the native dress of Kararagi, in fact. He was using chopsticks too, I suppose.
Oh boy, was he using them. Though, way too differently to the way they're supposed to be used.
Besides, no matter how much Subaru strained himself, he was unlikely to find a connection between a master of martial arts who was unknown to the world and that man. The man was a bit older than Subaru, most likely in his mid-20s. However, he felt that something was not quite right in regards to there being such a skilled man of that age with such a twisted nature being unknown, and that feeling took precedence. Moreover, there was still a doubt troubling him regarding whether the man who had been placed there by this Pleiades watchtower's strange mechanism was really just some randomer.
Oni-san, can I butt in for a sec?
Hmm?
It doesn't look like... Doesn't it look like Naked One-sama is gonna wake up?
Meili, who had been busy giving Shala a lap pillow, raised her hand up from a corner of the room. And just as she had said, Shala, with her head still resting against Meili's lap, captivatingly stretched out her body and started to groan. Then she slowly opened her eyes as everyone else looked on at her.
Master! Don't leave me alone, please! I don't want to be alone anymore!
Stop acting so miserable from the get-go! You were up all alone, weren't you?
Jeez. In a strange way, I thought you might show your affection, Master. But it turns out you're mean! As always. But I love that part of you, too.
Looks like I was worried for nothing.
Shala lifted her long legs up, swung them down, and nimbly got up. She shook her so-called scorpion tail about and looked around the room. Then she cocked her head and said, "Oh?"
Huh? Why are we here? If I'm not mistaken, we got through the examination with one of Master's dynamic flashes and made it up.
Oi, this isn't a dream. This is reality.
You were hugging me, Master, and you started to laugh, telling me not to let go again.
That was a dream! You fainted straight after the second examination started!
You shouted that at Shala as she recited the contents of her horrifying dream. Then he tried to remind her about what had happened just before she had fainted. However, Shala snorted her nose and said, "Fainted?" as if she was playing dumb.
Me? Faint? There's no way I'd do something so shameful. Even after I reunited with you so many centuries after, Master, I didn't end up fainting, you know? Me? Fainting? You're gonna reduce me to tears saying something so absurd. I get that you're tempted to doubt this, but you really did faint. Subaru and Meili were really worried about you. Believe me. Huh? Master worried about me? I believe you.
That was easy.
Me being tacked on like an extra. Now that's a little unexpected.
And Meili looked troubled as they witnessed Shala fawningly express her opinion as she slackened her expression. Nevertheless, after she acknowledged the reality of the present, Shala cocked her head the other way and said, "Huh?"
But what caused me to faint? That's not usual for me. To collapse? In those kind of situations, it wouldn't be strange if everyone ended up dead, other than Master.
I get that you are pining too much hope on Barasu. Sorry, on your master. But that which I have heard really happened. Take your time and think back to it earlier. Picture the long, long staircase in front of your eyes.
The long, long staircase.
Was Ram trying to get her to follow her memories and recall what happened? She spoke in a hushed voice, as if she were hypnotizing her. There should have been a hitch in Ram's plan in that she had not witnessed that scene. Yet she slowly unraveled Shala's locked memories, as if she had been there to see it.
You are greeted by a white room with a steel sword thrust down into the floor. The moment someone lays their hand on it, a strange voice echoes in the minds of everyone present.
My heart's pounding.
Shala and Amelia were reliving the experience thanks to Ram's emotional recitation. Setting Shala aside, Amelia ought to know about what had happened in detail, but Subaru did not interject in fear that he would break the mold of the conversation. Finally, her recitation approached Shala's sealed memories.
Right then, the silhouette of a person materializes at the back of the room. A man with red, long hair, blue eyes, and dressed in exotic garb.
Shala jumped back and let out a shriek the moment Ram reached that crucial scene. She turned to face Subaru, preparing to jump towards him. However, he had anticipated it. He bent his knees and caught her. This time, he did not fall. Instead, he was pressed against Shala's soft skin as if he were in a vice.
Ow! 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 I guess you remembered! You remembered! Right?
Why is that guy here? In spite of all of you telling me he was dead! He survived? I knew he's a guy who's not unkillable.
What are you saying?
As his eyes teared up in pain, Subaru tried to ask Shala what she was talking about. And then it dawned on him. He realized what Shala's words meant. The person in question that corresponded to what she had said since they had come to the tower was only one, and that person was...
The stick swinger! The stick swinger Reed! That monster! That demon! He's come back to fondle my chest again!
Reed Estrella. That was the name of the swordsman who had gone down in legend. A great swordsman who was said to have killed witch beasts, masters of the sword, dragons, and finally, even witches. He was the first person to have received the name Sword Saint, and was also one of the 3 great heroes who saved the world. He had kickstarted the glory of the Estrella family, the lineage of the Sword Saint, which Reinhard von Estrella was a part of. Even now, he was the highest aspiration of those who lived by the sword. The situation was hard to believe. His name was the name of a life that should have perished 400 years ago. He probably would have laughed at the possibility existing, were it not for this place having existed for centuries, a tower that had been built by those connected to the witch. Nevertheless, there was a living witness here who knew about 400 years ago. Nevertheless, they were in a tower built here by the sage who had lived 400 years ago. Upon taking into consideration his poor character, didn't he seem to be saying something like, "I've placed the first generation Sword Saint as the strongest guard here. Now surpass him!" Subaru and the others hurriedly went back to the green room with the facts they had gathered. They would have to come up with a game plan, now that they knew who their enemy was, Reed Estrella. Luckily, he had heard that that particular Sword Saint had been a man who was not lacking in anecdotes. And luckily, they had a talented person in their group who was well read on the greats of bygone days. Of course, he would imagine that the after effects of his defeat lingered within him. But once he found out about his opponent's identity, the shame he probably harbored should vanish too. After all, their opponent was to blame for this. At any rate, their enemy was the Sword Saint, a man who held the same family name as Reinhard, and became its founder, building the name up. Thinking of it like that, he should be able to easily digest even his defeat to him.
That's dumbass.
Subaru made his way back to the green room harboring those words of comfort, but once he got there, he spoke those words out in a hushed tone. There were beds of grass at the back of the room which the spirit had laid out for the wounded. There were 4 of them in total, and laying in them were Rem, Anastasia, and Patricia in the backmost one. Only one of those beds were empty, the one between Patricia and Anastasia. And on top of that ivory-woven bed lay merely his broken knight's sword. The man slowly opened his eyes to the sound of footsteps clambering up the stairs, and the aura of a man readying himself to fight, piercing through his skin. He felt no anger at having his sleep interrupted. After all, life was a constant battle. Once you came to the resolution that your flesh and blood was always walking the tightrope between life and death, you would end up living without any turmoil in your heart, no matter what would transpire. Gradually, the figure of the man who was climbing up the stairs came into view. He could remember that man's swordsmanship. He could even remember that man's footsteps and his footwork. It had only been a short while ago. There was no way he could forget. Only, that should have been the same for his opponent, too. So he thought it was strange. He had thought that his opponent was a little smarter than this, nevertheless. He lost that impression as soon as he looked into his opponent's eyes. An impulse had surged through him that led him to scoff instead. He sumptuously let it echo on top of his tongue, and then briskly scratched his red hair. And...
I ain't gonna be just playing. About this time, you prick.
He did not believe there would be any meaning to saying that, but he cast his words out of courtesy, just in case. When his opponent received them, he closed his eyes for a moment and instantly threw away all of this emotion. Then, his opponent stretched out his hand without any hesitation and pulled out the sword that had been thrust down into the floor and held it out in front of him.
Belonging to the royal guards of the Kingdom of Lagunica, Julius Euculius.
After he gave his name, the knight broke into a fierce run as a result of his own eyes narrowing. The man. Reed Estrella bent his lips into a twisted smile.
You couldn't even hope to be my playmate so long as you keep using that boring title.
And that's the chapter.
Good job, everyone.
Sorry, Pat, you had to learn about your character like this.
Yeah. What an upstanding guy.
You got him
He's a
like
dick.
perfectly nailed after 2 lines. It was
Yeah.
incredible.
You got his
entire
vibe
rest of
down
it.
perfectly.
I do realize now that I'll probably have to read ahead because it's kind of hard to read some of his lines just the way he speaks.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a bit of
But,
like
yeah, generally. But a lot of fun. He's like a not so innocent Johnny Bravo.
Yeah.
That's a way of
Hey,
putting it.
Good way to put it.
Uh-huh.
It's so funny to see him as like a different extreme to what Reinhard is in the modern day. Where Reinhard is like, you know, I am the peak of modesty and like saying all the stuff and being like the most like nice person and as I can be. And Reed is just like, you fucking cunt, suck this, oh, you twat, bitch.
Polar
Let
opposite.
me touch your boobies.
If you think about it, like if this is supposed to be 400 years ago, then that's, you know, like before the Kingdom of Lagunica like properly exists, right?
Oh, well, no, the Kingdom of Lagunica does exist at this point. It's just different and structured differently.
Right. But I mean, it's not like the dragon friend and time has progressed. They might not have this idea of knighthood and chivalry being the epitome of what it means to be a warrior back then. And instead you're thinking like barbarians and brutes.
Yeah, that is fair.
Nowadays, like the strongest white knights are like their best fighters. So both Reed and Reinhardt are the epitome of what it means to be a warrior in their era.
Very,
electric.
very similar to like the ancient Greek understanding of what a hero was, where a hero isn't someone that saves people. A hero is a strong person that changes their destiny.
Yeah.
That was deep, bro.
Nah, I think he's just a bollocks.
That's deep. Yeah, I mean, he is. He is the worst.
He is like genuinely the worst.
We love that for him.
You could imagine if Reinhard like met him, being like, "Huh?
This is my ancestor."
You
I'm
were the
afraid
first
I haven't
Sword
lived
Saint?
up to your legacy.
I haven't lived up
What
to it.
fucking legacy? I'm about to kill off my legacy. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I wonder what would have happened if Reinhard actually got in and got to fight him. What the hell would have
Reinhard
happened?
would win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Reinhard would win.
That's fair.
Reed
He has
is the
he has more
first Sword
broken
Saint,
superpowers.
but Reinhard is the strongest Sword Saint to ever exist.
That is fair.
At that point, it's just a matter of collateral damage.
Yeah.
Max level with the base game versus max level with all the DLCs.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to be better.
Yeah, literally. And you've got the really broken, overpowered DLC weapon that they've never balanced too.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the pre-order bonus that's like, oh, it's just cosmetic. It won't change the actual gameplay. It totally breaks the
Literally.
gameplay.
It's like in Arc 1 when Subaru's complaining, where the fuck is my Excalibur, man? Like, where's my OP sword? And then Reinhardt's just like swaggering along.
Right here.
Jay Dudley, that is an interesting idea of Heinkel finding Reed instead of Reinhardt, though.
Heinkel
Bro
would
gets
be
folded.
mentally destroyed by Reed.
Yeah, bro gets folded.
I mean, it might make him feel better about him being in Estrella, though. Like, I'm not failing to live up to shit.
It would.
Well,
but it would also, I think,
It
to
could be
him
that
accentuate his weakness of, oh, my ancestor, the man who founded what my family is like nowadays, thinks I'm the weakest little shit to ever exist. Just like my dad.
Yeah.
Why am I a disappointment to everybody?
Heinkel succumb to the verbal abuse is the question there, rather than does he lose? Because he loses. It's just a matter of the verbal abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with the verbal abuse that gets, directed to Julius in the last chapter and in the ones coming forward, it's probably not going to be the same towards Heinkel. Like, it's not the same issues that they would face. It's a neat thought,
I just get the
regardless.
vibe that Reed, like, or at least this Reed in his prime, 25-year-old guy, probably doesn't give a shit about his descendants, like, at all.
I would check out.
Do you think he knows he has kids?
I'm sure he expects to have had kids by
Yeah.
this point in his time.
Yeah, with how he seems to really like women,
Yeah,
That's
maybe a
on.
bit too much. Yeah.
Loads of
Yeah.
little reeds just jumping about.
Ugh.
Robert Baratheon vibes.
Oh god.
And I
Get the
wonder if
breastplate
Reinhard-
stretcher.
So I can squeeze it.
What were you saying, Drad?
I wonder if Reinhard would be able to pull the sword. Probably, right? It's in the name. If he was fighting Reed.
I mean, if he got into the tower, he would be able to do the examinations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah,
the sword
but
just
with the
starts the
sword-
fight.
No,
Right.
his sword, Reed.
Yeah. Would
Oh.
Reed's sword be pulled out against Reed?
Mm,
That'd be kind of cool.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Because we haven't gotten any implication that Reed has divine protections. Like, at all. Which was the reason that he had to pull it out against zombie Teresia. Because she had powers to overcome, like, actually cause him harm.
Only that? Really? Wasn't it more about worthiness?
It's more
Or-
about
Well-
worthiness, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's never been implied that he would need to pull it out against Heinkel, who showed that he was a better fighter than Teresia was. She was just more dangerous. Like, it was
Heinkel was a better fighter?
No, sorry, not Heinkel. Wilhelm.
Reed. Willow, yeah. Man, I got my hopes up.
I mean, there's the fact that he couldn't
So
pull it out
excited.
against
Wait,
Regulus.
I'm a badass.
Let's go.
Wait.
Still my
Someday
favorite
Heiko will get
character.
his time.
Oh yeah, he will. You betcha.
Oh, he will. Eventually. Maybe.
He's
He just
still
needs
an
to
Estrella
sober up.
with a failing
He
liver,
just needs
but
to
an
be off
Estrella.
the train for a
Off
bit.
the Jamba Juice.
He needs to get off the sauce.
Rip.
Mm.
All right, everybody. Should we keep going?
Yeah!
Yeah.
Got some peak chapters
Dude.
coming up.
Woohoo! Anybody need the washroom?
Which
before we
don't
get going?
involve me.
Whee!
You get to
Yeah.
sit back and enjoy.
Huzzah!
9 pages of nothing for us. Woohoo! All right, Connor, this is your narration chapter, I think.
It sure is.
Hell yeah! All right, gentlemen, take it away when you're ready.
Arc 6, Chapter 28. Julius Jaculius. There is no doubt. No one would ever believe it.
My name is Natsuki Subaru, servant of the Roswell Mansion, and one and only knight to Emilia-sama, royal candidate!
At that moment, almost everyone in the hall of the royal castle turned their heads towards the self-proclaimed knight. Even the man who said it couldn't completely hide the frivolous emotions and reckless impulse behind his words. But there was one man, and only one, who had been deeply moved by them. The sword of the selection he picked up from the ground fit into his palm so perfectly it made him feel as if he could cry. It was almost enough to make him believe, in his delusion, that the sword had chosen him. Even though, in truth, there wasn't a single reason within him now that should allow him to puff out his chest like that. Compared to his broken, beloved sword, this one was slightly thicker in the blade and heavier at the tip. As long as he took that into account while striking, however, the difference was something that he could quickly adjust to. Not all battles could be handled with only the use of a weapon one was accustomed to. It was a source of pride for him that he had trained himself to imagine all possible situations, and that he was able to do battle with any sword at hand.
Really boring. You prick.
Carrying that pride, he launched a sharp thrust straight at the yawning man's forehead. However, the man dodged it with a casual tilt of his head, letting the tip of the blade graze through the ends of his hair. As though grooming it into place, he scattered his red hair with a flick and leapt backwards. As the distance between them opened, Julius surged forward, footwork crisp, refusing to let his opponent slip away. In battle, if one were to evaluate swordsmanship as a whole, what mattered wasn't just the handling of the blade, it was also the movement of the feet and the way one stepped. Naturally, every sword had its range, to reach the ideal position as quickly as possible and make the most of every opening. It wasn't enough to rely on the arms alone. One had to use their feet, in other words, their entire body. That's why, when he first began training, the very first thing hammered into him was footwork. He still believed he'd been fortunate to have such a good teacher. Compared to his own abilities now, his master swordsmanship might have seemed lacking, but that was something age would inevitably bring. There was no shame in that. More than his own strength, the man had a gift for teaching. He didn't just demonstrate techniques. He loved to explain where they came from, how they had been passed down, and why they mattered. And so naturally, Julius came to enjoy those stories. He took pride in being able to bring those teachings to life with every movement of his sword. He caught up to the leaping man and struck toward the spot where he would land. His blade fell to feint from above, from the sides, 3 directions in total, meant to disrupt the defense. The true strike came from below, an upward slash aimed straight from the ground to his chest.
By the book, huh? You prick.
A slash that should have traced a path from groin to chest was effortlessly redirected by the man's stick. As the stick slipped into the line of the blade and touched it, the force behind the sword was deflected with unbelievable ease. Even if he tried to resist it, a sword swing took less than a second, and in that fleeting instant the man applied just the right amount of force, delicate enough to thread a needle. A choked sound caught in his throat, and his overextended swing shot upward above his head. He twisted his body mid-motion to avoid giving an opening, and instinctively commanded the wind to gather and form a blade, but that wasn't an option anymore. No spell of suppression or misdirection would be cast. All he'd done was expose himself. A front kick drove straight into his side. the bare toes gouging into the space between his organs. In the instant his body buckled under the pressure, the foot, still lodged deep, twisted, and every organ inside him howled in agony. He went flying. And at the same moment, he launched himself in the direction of the impact, preventing his body from being whipped around by the inertia. Still, there was no negating the kick's penetrating force. As his vision spun and the impact in his gut sent shockwaves through to his brain, nausea welled up inside him. Yet even then, he strained his eyes to track his opponent, slammed his feet into the approaching floor, and held his stance. His breathing was ragged. It would take him some time to recover and catch his breath. So he forcibly wrung the air from his lungs, emptying every last trace of oxygen from his body. Once he had completely purged himself, he imposed control of his frantic breath, trying and forcing it to calm down. Exhale, all the way. With that, he could still fight. He had to. He saw the red-haired man standing about 10 meters away, wearing that same smug smile. Again, he dashed forward, chase him down, hammer in his sword strikes, and at the very least, wipe that arrogant grin off his face. Only then would the real battle begin.
So pretentious. There are truths and lies in a battle, you prick. You're reading out of some storybook or something, you prick.
The man closed the gap in the blink of an eye, so fast it left him stunned. No exaggeration, it happened right after he blinked, the full 10 meters in a single instant, and the next thing he knew, the stick he wielded was right in front of his eyes. Instinctively, Julius raised his sword to swat it aside, but the motion was too large, too exposed, and right into that opening came two sweeping strikes. One slammed into the side of his head, the other crashed into his chest. A sharp impact, so clean and precise that it almost drew his consciousness away faster than the pain itself. He clenched his teeth, stomped hard against the floor, and desperately clawed his fading awareness back into focus. With a low growl, he lashed out with a sweeping crescent slash towards the man. The man slipped past it with effortless grace, as though dancing through the air, and drove an elbow into Julius's temple. His consciousness wavered again. He stomped his foot down, grounding himself in the creeping pain that spread beneath his soul to hold on to his will to fight. Even so, his ability to make precise, moment-to-moment judgments had already begun to slip. That's why he chose to strike his body knew best. Simultaneous chance of fire and water, a three-way attack together with the sword. Nothing came of them. There was neither fire nor ice. All that followed was the single, perfected slash born of relentless training, polished so many times it had earned the name of the finest. Against an ordinary foe, that alone might have been enough to end the fight.
Meh.
The pinnacle of knightly swordsmanship was swatted aside with ease by a stick, swung like a toy. A knee slammed into his solar plexus, and a strangled cry escaped his throat as bile rose and forced its way out. Even as his body crumpled forward, a flurry of blows pounded into him from the front, leaving him not even the chance to fall.
Oh.
He started to fall backward under the force of the blow, but caught himself by stretching out his arm. Using the momentum of his backwards roll, he lashed out with a kick. Reed let out a surprised noise as he dodged, but he did still dodge it. Julius kept rolling, putting distance between them. Blood spilled from his nose. He wiped it on his white sleeve, staining it with bright crimson-red paint. Unpleasant. He didn't care. He exhaled sharply and poured everything he had into the sword in his right hand. It had to reach. He had to make it reach. He had to be strong. He had to be strong.
You're pathetic, you know that. How long you been holding that sword, huh, you prick? I've only had mine for 3 months. I can cut light. What the hell can you cut?
You, right here, right now.
Don't kid yourself, you prick. You can't do it. No swinging at it till you reach it. Don't swing at it till you reach it. You don't swing till it lands. You don't swing till it works. You talk about what you want to do, but you haven't done what needs doing, you prick. So shut up.
He didn't respond with words. Instead, he drove his sword forward with all the force he had left, and in return, the man answered with over 10 strikes, raining down in an instant. His consciousness was swaying, but he was not falling. Why was he not falling? It was because
You're lacking, you prick. You ain't good enough, you prick. You don't belong here. You're out of your depth. You ain't the lead here, you prick. Hell, you weren't even cast.
he had to be strong. He had to prove that with the sword. He had lost his name, his house, his family, his master, his comrades, his friends, the spirits bound to him by soul. And what was left was only this. What remained was only himself. What he had built, what he had piled up through his own will without form or shape, this alone was all that still remained. This alone was proof that he existed.
You make me sick, you prick. Wearing that pretty mask. Think that's enough? You satisfied just copying other people? You and your sword. Boring as hell.
There had been a time in which he had aimed for the peak of swordsmanship. He had wondered if that place might be within reach. But he'd let it go the moment he saw him. That red-haired boy. That boy holding a sword whose eyes he had seen in something vast, heavy, something grand that he bore on his shoulders.
Ain't nobody looking at you. Nobody's expecting nothing from you. Don't think I'm taking it easy just 'cause I'm playing. Even punching and kicking you ain't fun. 'Cause you're a prick.
He had once admired it, that world full of shining stories. But to stand alongside those stories, he had known he wasn't good enough. So he gave it everything. He struggled, clawed forward, thinking that maybe, someday, even that dream he had once let go. The blue eye, not covered by his eye patch, and that ragged, flame-colored hair overlapped with the boy who had once caused him to give up on his dream, and with one of the many ideals he had come to chase afterward. He had believed earnestly that he had spent his life striving, always working, always reaching, hoping that someday he might make it.
Ain't enough, you prick? Not at all. What? You been sleeping through your whole damn life?
The very ideal he had once strove for had cast him aside outright and beaten him down with nothing but a stick. He couldn't land a hit. He couldn't make his blade reach. Efforts to keep fighting were meaningless. The blood and sweat that had been shed were worthless. And even the one thing he'd held on to, the one thing he still believed in, that too was trampled underfoot. Slowly, something rose within him, but something stronger surged up and drowned it out.
So you're still holding it in. What a bore, you prick. You just keep getting duller.
And with a click of his lips, a light gushed out and pierced through his limbs. He collapsed like a puppet with its strings cut, but violence didn't allow him to fall. A blow to the torso knocked the wind from his lungs. His hair was seized and his body was whipped side to side. He was slammed into the floor, and as he bounced from the impact, a kick smashed into his face. His body spun like a disc, tumbling across the endless white floor, rolling and rolling with no end in sight. He struck the ground. His body jolted upward. He turned toward where the kick had come from, only to catch a flying knee full in the face. In the moment of impact, his forehead crashed against the man's knee. Bone cracked, blood scattered. He was sent flying back. A gap between them was formed. He should have been able to reset. Should have. But his body refused to move. His whole body was screaming like a siren. The worst of it was in his head. His mind rocked unsteadily, and it felt like the slightest lapse in focus would cause his consciousness to spill out and vanish. The sword. Where was the sword? Slowly, deliberately, he forced strength into his right hand as if to confirm it, and there it was, the distinct feeling of a hilt in his palm. relief bloomed in his chest. He couldn't let it go. This alone. If he lost even this, then what would be left? What else could he say he hadn't already lost? Or was it something else entirely? Something different, merely shaped like a sword, gripped in his right hand right now. He believed there was no mistake in how he lived, that this path, this way of being, was his truth, and always would be. Even now, he still believed it. He had always thought nothing could ever shake that. So if it had slipped from his hand and disappeared, that must have been something else. Something unrelated to right or wrong. Or have I been wrong all along? Had he strayed from the person he should have been, chosen the wrong path, misplaced his faith? His name, his house, his family, his master, a companion, a friend, spirits bound to his soul, he had lost all of them. Even the one thing he believed still remained. If that too was worthless, unworthy of clinging to, incapable of supporting him, if it had all only ever been an illusion. Stay strong, and I'll support you, he had said to his master.
Remember your strength,
Had said his only remaining friend. In a world where everything else had been lost, that strength was the only thing holding his body upright. That strength was the only thing his weak, fragile self had ever believed would never disappear.
The hesitation showing in your sword, you prick.
How long had he spent lost in self-questioning? Likely not even a second. However, for a man like him, for the Sword Saint, that was no different than being handed infinite chances to cut down his enemy. Desperately, Julius yanked his sword upwards to try and block the oncoming blow. A sharp, metallic sound ran out. He blinked, only to see his sword tumbling across the floor. It had slipped from his grasp, and now he had lost even that. His name, his pride, his sword, all gone. So what was still standing there?
You lack the qualifications to reach the heavenly sword, you prick. You wouldn't even be fit to be my follower.
The dry voice echoed as the Sword Saint shifted his grip on the stick and sank low into a stance. For the first time, the Sword Saint had adopted a proper stance. A moment later, the stick let out a howl, and the blow he unleashed, it was a sword strike. There could be no doubt. It was absolute, a perfect strike, filled with overwhelming pressure. The shockwave overwhelmed him, and he was sent flying. A blow unlike a punch, a kick, or any of the violence he had endured until now. This was not violence. This was the zenith of the sword, the highest peak of swordsmanship, a sword technique unleashed by true strength. Swallowed by light, his consciousness was blown away. Was he seeing death? Was he seeing something that had overcome death? Even that he didn't know. However, at the moment of being blown away, he heard a faint voice.
Julius!
A voice that was screaming. It was full of melancholy. Like someone who had desperately run up a long flight of stairs only to arrive at the decisive moment. Since there was a voice calling for him, a very untimely smile was formed on his face. The finest of knights, from the Dragon Kingdom of Lagunica's royal guard, the eldest son and the heir of the Euculius family, the first knight of the royal candidate, Anastasia Hoshin. Julius Euculius. I wonder, am I even worthy of being called by that name anymore? That question was his last, as Julius's consciousness was swallowed by light and snapped off, just like that.
Holy Peak!
Oh, damn. Ooh.
Ooh!
That was so
amazing.
good.
Amazing job, Connor.
Thank
Good
you.
job, you
And-
guys.
Oh my god, Pat. You fucking turned it up
Menacing.
to 11, dude. Menacing.
Menacing, menacing, menacing.
Nailed the hell out of that.
Well, you know, his lines work real well for that.
Well, I just tried.
Not only does he
gosh.
harass people, he also does emotional damage.
Oh no,
Emotional
that emotional
damage.
damage.
What a guy.
What a guy indeed.
What a guy.
Man, that's an intense chapter for Julius.
Can I just
Oh,
say,
I can't
Connor,
believe he tried to go back and try the boss again.
your
Without grinding.
interpretation of this chapter, Connor, has complete, like, I enjoyed this chapter when I initially read it, but the way you've translated it and the way you've narrated it, that just completely immersed me in this experience.
Mhm.
This was, like, amazing.
I wanted to do it. It was worth the 4 hours it took.
Worth.
Well done, buddy. It did pay off.
Thank you. My favorite line from that whole thing, especially because it relates to someone else that's may have reached the heavenly sword. You find later is you ain't the lead here, you prick. Hell, you weren't even cast. It's just it's so good.
I didn't even
True,
caught on to
actually.
that.
I was wondering why
That's
he was making
true.
a play on that. I was like, damn.
Reed dropped some silent but really, like, important lines in this chapter, like, unironically. Not just for Julius's character, but some of the stuff he's, like, referring to, it's just really interesting. It adds depth to things that I'd kind of forgotten about, and it adds more to that.
Yeah. Full stop.
Like
Thanks
him
for
or
the
hate
you
him.
pricks, jack of all trades, by the way. I saw this popping up throughout that chapter.
Sorry, forgot to mute everybody. Sorry about that. My bad.
This happens.
That was good.
What, you mean I have to read part of this again? What a tragedy.
It was fun doing
Oh, no.
flashback, Subaru, I won't lie. Like, the way that was all written together was very tight. Like, it just kind of hit different.
So good.
It
Young
was cool
man.
getting Julius's perspective at the very beginning of Subaru at the proclaiming he was Emilia's knight. Like it's
Like,
cool to get.
It's so interesting now understanding, because we now all know the context that the reason Julius did all he did was to save Subaru's life, essentially, from the rest of the knights.
Yeah.
But then it also adds that extra layer of Julius was, like, impressed by what Subaru did in a weird way.
This guy's spitting.
Like,
Because he
Spitting back.
Because he's doing something that he feels he himself cannot do, right?
Well, it's something that he probably feels that he's lost in himself ever since he first saw Reinhardt. Subaru didn't give up on the idea of being like an amazing knight for someone as soon as he looked at Reinhardt for the first time.
Yeah.
And Julius is like
it's
recognizing the dream he used to have when he sees that.
Which is why it's important that Reed is the one who is defeating him here, but also that he has that flashback where he's thinking of when he saw the younger Reinhardt for the first time and gave up on being the strongest.
Which is a nice callback to him explaining that moment to Subaru on the dragon ride on the way here. It's like, yeah, that's kind of like when I first saw him and
One of my
realized just how
formative moments.
powerful he was.
Yeah.
Just now we see that it was a negative formative moment. It was a trauma almost.
It adds that level of, like, also a tragedy, because Reinhard and Julius are friends. So
yeah,
it adds an element of, like, Julius, I can't reconcile with his jealousy towards Reinhard in a way. There's a gap in their relationship that has been unseen for a long time until now.
And like as soon as he starts to think back on that, because he wasn't there when Shala is explaining that this is Reed himself, that he slowly over the fight comes to realization like, oh, he is the Sword Saint. I understand who this person is now.
Yeah.
This guy's goated. Oh, I'm cooked.
It's also really sad to see him reflexively activate, like, his spirit magic, like, at least in his head, because he's like, this is how I'll follow up perfectly, and then it rings out silent.
Which Reed can catch, because like you're just doing practice moves. Like that's all that's happening here. You're just playing by the book. You're acting like a knight out of fairy tales. You're not like really fighting me. You're not attacking until you win. You're just trying move A, move B, move C. and they're
Yeah.
not working.
Julius only has the regimented moves. He's not fighting almost like from the heart, right?
Yeah, he gets one, and it almost lands,
Mm-hmm.
but he still dodges it because he's just too fast.
Yeah. And Julius has also been told something which I think he believed ever since he saw Reinhard, which is that he'll never reach the Heavenly Sword, right?
No.
Yeah.
Zoc, they do need to get a room. You're right.
That was that. Julius got a berating, didn't he?
It's
He
so
sure
Beating
did.
and a berating. That's
yeah,
kind of horrible.
Yeah, a beating and a berating, yeah. It's so sad too. Julius is passing out, and Subaru's like, Julius! He thinks he's watching his friend die. He's like, no!
When I first read this, I thought he was watching his friend. I thought Julius was dying here.
Me too.
Really?
But fair play to Julius, like, you know, he took a fucking beating, but still kept getting back up.
Yeah, I sure did. That must have been brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, the sad thing is
Jeez,
that
like-
the only thing Julius has is to get back up anymore. He has nothing. He only has his friend, Subaru. And they already have a complicated relationship. So he probably feels a lot of guilt about relying so much on Subaru in this arc so
That's-
far, like emotionally.
That's true, but Subaru's bout of support of like believing in Julius's strength is the only reason he
thing
stood
that's-
as
he's
long as he
going.
did
Yeah.
after losing the sword. Why he did it? Why he had to be beaten and not just give up.
Which I believe is a quote from the Betelgeuse fight, right? Betelgeuse
Yes.
fight. Yeah.
I'm almost positive.
Wow.
Because that's the first time Subaru truly acknowledges in words Julius's strength and his trust in him.
Mm-hmm.
Without further ado, should we get going on chapter 29 since it relates all to...
What we've just discussed?
Yeah.
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 Temper loser.
Now we are down
Let's
gold.
go.
So would anybody like to narrate?
It's just God.
I volunteer
I
as
can
tribute.
narrate if need be.
I can also narrate.
Oh, fuck.
I mean, I've got no lines in this one, so.
Now the issue
Now,
of too
you
many
know what?
voices.
Spin wheel. Spin wheel.
Spin
Then
wheel.
wheel was originally flip the coin.
Bring out
Open up-
the
oh
wheel.
yeah, go to Wheel of Names.
I'm a gacha gamer. I like these odds.
I'll just D6 it. Was that Drad, Tail D, and Green?
Yes.
And Al.
All right. Oh, and Al. All right. D8
I
then.
can, but someone will have to
Did Pat, you also put your name
do
forward?
30.
Yeah, I'm happy enough
D10!
to narrate if need be.
All right. I got them all in front of me.
Beautiful.
Who will the casino?
Drad.
Me?
Of course, it's Heinkel who wins in gambling.
Gotcha. Of course, Uncle always wins. Give me like
Fair
a
play.
minute
House
to
always
prepare. Literally
wins.
just a minute.
Oh
And-
god.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can you do
Is
both?
someone? I can. I've done worse. How long is loser?
14 pages.
14.
Sheet
Then,
15.
Did you even
then I-
volunteer, Drad?
I mean, yeah, kind of. The funny thing is, I was. This was originally my chapter when we were supposed to pre-record all the narration,
my
but I
God.
lost the whole recording. Right? My PC just gave out.
Oh.
So I can, but
gotta
someone
run
will have
back.
to do 30.
Then
I can
guess
do
we
30.
do the. Yeah, I can do 30. We can do the thing again.
The thing.
Alright,
we'll
now
have,
it's gonna be D8.
Oh, yes,
know what?
anyway.
Let's just
Pat do
say
30
Pat.
while he's here.
Yeah, because we don't get him often. So,
One thing
Yay!
Drag,
Yeah,
you
I'm
wanna
sorry,
do
I'm so
loser?
unavailable.
So,
I'll
Pat,
never
you do
forgive you.
loser?
Yeah, so the 29 for Drad, Pat will grab 30, and
Okay.
we should be good.
Keep the same. All
Okay,
right.
so 29 is me. Gotcha. I just need some hot water real quick.
Oh, wow.
So give me a minute and I'm gonna do it.
Take your time, bud.
All right, Drad's doing loser. Pat's doing 30. 30's too long.
I'm
to say
doing
too
30.
fast. 30.
30.
30.
I'm doing 30 because I'm dirty.
What?
Wait, are you already?
What?
No, you're not 30.
No, I was just rhyming.
Oh! I was like, wait a minute. No, you're not older than me. And then I panicked. I was like, wait, am I already in my 30s? What the fuck?
No.
Wait, I'm 30?
Lapson, also not 30.
Oh god, it's getting
But
close
the other
though.
way.
Teal'di's looking with traumatized eyes.
Chloe's like, shut up, you annoying
It's like,
brat.
oh, y'all are worried about that. That's adorable.
You summer child.
Look, in my defense, Teal'di, I do already have a hip replacement. I've got like one step in the old man door already.
No, it's okay.
And I have a
Everyone
massively
falls
receding
apart
hairline.
everyone falls apart at their own pace. It's okay.
Yeah.
Half of my hair is gray right now. Like the first chunk of it, all for my students this
Well,
year.
that's the kids.
You're just morphing into Amelia. It's okay.
If it
Yeah.
would all go silver, it's fine. But it's going in 2 little chunks. I might just fucking dye it
Aw.
and be like, here, let's take this.
Might
hit
as
now.
well. Go for it.
Might as well.
Save you money on Amelia wigs.
Do something fun
Literally.
with it.
My hair's long enough.
Might as well.
Hope it doesn't fall out from the dye.
What?
Nah.
Listen, use your hair while you have it.
Just
Take
make
it from
sure
someone
you
who's
don't.
losing it.
Just if you can help it, try not to bleach it first. That'll
Yeah.
make it not so dry.
I'll go to a salon. I will pay somebody.
Oh
Make
yeah.
me look good.
Help me!
Here's an anime girl. Make me look like her.
Here is my waifu. I need to be her. Thank you.
I want to be waifu for lifeu.
And then when the hair starts going and it needs to be short, it'll be blue and I will be Rem.
I think that's
There you
possibly
go.
my biggest social fear possible. Going to a barber's, right, and bring up a picture of an anime character and be like, yo, I want my hair to look like this guy.
So many guys.
Yeah,
do it.
yo,
No,
barber,
you know
give
what
this
you
guy-
Main
do.
character of
If
Yu-Gi-Oh.
you're on like vacation or visiting somewhere, you go do that because
Yeah.
you'll never see them again.
Ah.
God, that's crazy.
Bury
I
the
didn't even
crime.
strategize
Great
it like
idea.
that.
They'll never see it coming. So many people go to South Korea for all the aesthetic stuff. That's what I'm gonna do now.
There you go.
There we go.
Go to Korea specifically for haircuts, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It's specifically to get like a wolf cut.
Everything
Nice.
done. A
A
whole
what cut?
everything done.
Oh, who cut?
A wolf. A woo.
Ow.
All right. Drad, you ready for this one?
Yeah, I'm ready. Audio okay?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Always.
Suguru and Julius, you ready?
I think I'm out cold for this whole chapter, but yes.
Oh. Subaru, you ready?
Yeah.
Not the whole one, I think.
Yeah, I think at one point
Okay.
you start getting pissy.
Yeah, I remember this. Destiny has chosen me, so I shall narrate.
And I'm gonna mute myself because I'm munching. Sorry.
Wouldn't that mute me?
Nope, because I'm controlling my end.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Shit,
10
my
seconds.
bad, my bad. I'm in danger.
Arc 6, Chapter 29. Loser. He had run up the long, long staircase to reach him, but by the time he did, it was already too late. He had forced out a shout despite his heavy panting, overworking his already strained lungs. But neither his voice nor his words held the power to change the situation. The lack of power words held here was growing into more of an issue, especially now that the two of them were pitting techniques of the sword against each other. Though he did not even know if he could call it something like pitting techniques of the sword against each other. Because it had all been so one-sided, and no matter how much he embellished it, the weapons that one of them wielded were not but a pair of sticks. The white light spread out, dyeing the already white room into a more brilliant white. What was causing it was unclear, regardless of whether it was something sired from the nature of this aberration of a swordsman, or because it was a swing which he had boasted could even cut light. The blow came accompanied with a shockwave that swept across the room. The individual caught in the attack's line of fire was engulfed by the light, as well, and blown away without being able to do anything about it. Then, literally in the blink of an eye, the light vanished, and the tall figure of the one-sleeved red-haired man filled the room. Along with the figure of the along with the figure of the purple-haired swordsman who had collapsed like a corpse.
Hey, aren't you that small fry, you prick?
The red-haired man called out casually to Subaru, who was at a loss for words at what he had just witnessed. Without missing a beat, the man smiled at him like a shark, as if he had forgotten all about the duel he had just been having. Then he pointed at the fallen swordsman, at Julius.
You're too late, you prick. I've already cleaned up here, and I'm getting the whiff that you're gonna be a pain in the ass. So hurry up and pick him up and get your ass out of here.
Reed Estrella.
The fuck, you prick? Don't go sticking your nose into people's names, you prick. Don't rain on my parade. It's way cooler not giving out names, you prick.
The stick swinger, or rather Reed's mood, had taken a turn for the worse upon being called his name. Though Subaru felt annoyed at how completely beside the point the remarks were, he did not dare take any rash actions. He instead slowly moved his gaze away from Reed towards the still collapsed Julius.
I ain't gonna grab you and gobble you up, you know, you prick. You don't have to keep staring at me.
I'm sorry, but it's common sense where I'm from not to look away when you've run into a bear. As for Julius.
With his gaze still set on Reed and his guard up, Subaru leaned down and made sure that Julius was still breathing. He had lost consciousness, but he could feel him breathing on his palm while he placed it just above his mouth. It looked like he was still alive despite taking that sword slash full on. Subaru was relieved by that.
Isn't this pretty kind of you, considering you said the next time you wouldn't be going easy on us?
Not really. Being defeated by chopsticks and scurrying back home's lamer than being killed by him, don't you think? You prick. That's what I think. I'd rather die than show my miserable self to anyone. So I defeated him with my chopsticks and let him scurry back home.
Let me take back what I said about you being kind, fucking asshole!
You never make any sort of impression, no matter what it is you say, small fry. Besides, I got no intention to test y'all anymore today. Though I'll beat you up if you want to try me, like that guy below you.
Reed scratched his abs with his right hand and pointed at Subaru and Julius respectively with the chopsticks in his left. Regardless of how angry he was at Reed's attitude right now, Subaru had no way of making him take back his rudeness.
Damn it.
Oh, go on. Don't just stay silent while carrying your comrade. Go ahead and behave like a sore loser. That's the smart and easy thing to do. If it makes you feel any better. As bad as it is, though.
Reed narrowed his cold blue eyes and spat that out as he sat himself down with a thunk. Meanwhile, Subaru somehow managed to hoist the collapsed Julius up, whilst being subjected to the victor's delight. Subaru was forced to carry Julius on his back, just like he'd had to an hour ago. His unconscious body was quite heavy, not to mention he was taller than him. It was a complete mess, but in times of difficulty, one would have to make some sacrifices. Because leaving Julius behind, here, by himself, was not an option.
Next time, bring one of those good-looking women along with you, prick. Like that smoking hottie even, for example.
Without mentioning any of their names even once, Reed waved them goodbye. Faced with Reed's flippant attitude, Subaru could literally do nothing more than just retreat away from here, wordlessly. One foot after the other, step by step, Subaru went down the staircase while taking care of where he was placing his feet. Though the staircase was fairly wide, he still felt quite claustrophobic whilst being surrounded by the stone walls. This was the second time he had gone up and down this particular staircase, but he still had no clues which would help him shed light on the lack of naturalness of the staircase's structure when it came to the reason as to why it did not shoot out of the tower despite being straight.
Why did you even consider doing such a stupid thing? I'm at my breaking point here.
It went without saying just how tough it was to carry him on his back down the long staircase. Especially since there were 444 steps to this long staircase, as per Amelia's count. It was not like Subaru held any animosity towards Amelia for telling him that, but in times like these, where the actual numbers of stairs kept popping up in his head, he did feel an urge of wanting to pinch her cheeks and tell her off. Of course, Amelia would definitely look cute if he tried to pinch her cheeks.
Amelia, both Amelia and Bayako are going to be worried if I don't hurry up and get him back.
They had noticed Julius's absence in the green room, and they had all ended up going around the watchtower to look for him. They had gone up the 3rd floor as well as to the rooms on the 4th floor, whilst they made Shala go downstairs to check on Gian and the dragon carriage on the ground floor. Everyone was worried for Julius, worried about the feelings in his heart due to his defeat to Reed and having vanished, leaving behind his broken knight sword. For sure, they were all the types to worry themselves sick with anxiety weighing on them.
But, you know...
Nevertheless, only Subaru differed from them. Only Subaru was able to immediately understand what lay in his heart. Where had Julius gone without his knight sword, and for what purpose? Only Subaru had known the answers to those questions for sure.
Everything is shaking about.
Did you just notice?
Subaru stopped mid-step upon hearing that voice coming from his back. Julius, who was being carried by him on his shoulders, stared at his voice and said,
Where are we?
Vaguely speaking, we're halfway down some stairs. A bit more precisely speaking, we're halfway down a long staircase. And even more precisely, we're halfway fleeing down the staircase between the 2nd and 4th floors.
You're being pretty vague about it, are you not? Are you carrying me on your back?
Yes, I am. And let me just say that this is the 2nd time this has happened in this short period of time. And I'm having to do this again, 30 minutes after I thought I'd never like to do this again. Do you get how I am feeling about this?
It is no wonder this ride has been a bumpy one.
Do you want me to throw you off?
Subaru could sense Julius's wheezed laughter coming from his back. He ignored the sarcasm in his words and untensed himself a little. In all honesty, Subaru had not gathered any pretensions about what Julius's first words after waking up. He would not be exaggerating if he said that he had even been fearing what he would say, truthfully speaking. That was why Subaru had been relieved that the sort of conversation he had gleaned from Julius's first couple of words after waking up had not been the despair-filled sort.
Do you remember what happened?
Sad as it is, I do. I was easily defeated by our enemy, and in the end I was still shown sympathy, causing trouble for you, Anastasia-sama, and everyone else.
I'm not some kind of devil who'd blame you for losing against an opponent like that.
Julius sounded awfully like himself, and for that, Subaru let out a sigh and started going down the staircase once more. Having regained his consciousness, Julius was much easier to carry than before. He had also cleared up some of his anxieties which had been ladening his step, so thanks to that, he could tackle the remaining steps with renewed vigor.
Anastasia-sama is out of harm's way, right? I saw that she collapsed, and now that she is being treated in the spirit's room.
The present diagnosis on her is that her life isn't in danger. You, on the other hand, were pretty close to dying. That guy, that eye-patched bastard. I'd be surprised if you knew who he is.
Reed Estrella.
Huh?
His voice was brimming with confidence in his response. Subaru was so surprised for a second that both his feet and breath caught in their tracks. However, he quickly brought both his feet and back. However, he quickly brought both his feet and back. However, he quickly brought both his feet and breath back into motion, so not to let him on to his surprise. Subaru carefully chose his words so that Julius would not sense his flustered state.
Well, well, you knew all along. That thing. Shawla says she knows him. Makes sense that she does because she seems acquainted with him from 400 years ago. But it looks like she was telling the truth when she alluded that he's someone that's hard to deal with. I say that since she fainted right after she saw his face.
Huh. There were a ton of things which tipped me off. His flaming red hair and blue eyes. His technique with the sword really stood out. If you can even call it a technique with the sword. He'd not even let himself swing his sword against me. I should simply say he is a powerful person. Even the term stick swinger is one that denotes him, from what I have seen in literature.
So, he's been called a stick swinger since olden times because he fights with those chopsticks?
Actually, the nuance of it is that he did not choose a weapon he specialized with. I had my thoughts about him when he introduced himself as a stick swinger, but I was unsure. I apologize for not mentioning them to you.
Subaru had no reply for Julius's apologetic words. Though he had stated that there had been tons of things which had tipped him off, Subaru thought it too much of a stretch for him. Reed Astrea, the man who was known as the first Sword Saint, should have died 400 years ago. Just because some of his features matched did not mean that one could easily come to the conclusion of having encountered the hero of yore whose name had gone down in fairy tale and legend. If there had been a chance that he could have noticed that, then he, Subaru, should have been able to come to that conclusion. After all, he and Amelia had both agreed that the examinations which had been put forward by this watchtower were similar to the trials he had taken at Echidna's tomb. With that said, Subaru should have given more thought about the contents of the examinations set out by this tower and raised as many possibilities as he could. Neglecting that had led to their routing on the second floor Electra.
How in the world did we end up coming across the swordsman of legend brought back from the past? Originally, I would have been delighted in having been granted this boon, but all things considered...
I get how you feel. Those heroes of legend are all good at being disappointing in reality. This watchtower is full of letdowns, like with Shawla, who's been just as a sage.
You understand how I feel?
His voice was cracked and it felt full of self-derision. Subaru inconsiderately gritted his teeth upon hearing what Julius had moaned out from up close, but he chose not to touch on that, opting instead to say,
Even so, if I'm recalling correctly, the first Sword Saint is engraved on gold coins, but there's a pretty big difference between that and the actual guy. Shawla also differed in her gender, so even though we can't do much about it, there's a considerable gap between them too. The guy on the gold coin looked more like a middle-aged dude.
Just a quick historical tidbit. It was when he was older that Reed accomplished his deeds that led to him being counted as one of the three great heroes. The figure depicted on the gold coins is probably correct. The him up above is younger than the one from recorded history.
Come to mention it, it didn't even seem that Reed recognized Shawla.
He had planned to change the subject, but perchance they ended up touching on another issue. Compared to what Julius had said, there had definitely been too much of a difference of hot and cold between the two of Reed and Shawla for there to have been some sort of friendship between them. If he assumed that this guy was Reed before he'd met Shawla, then there would be some parts he could agree with regarding the two's differences in recognizing each other. But when he took into consideration Shawla's overreaction, and the high likelihood that Reed had not remembered her name or face due to how he was, the basis of his hypothesis weakened.
If we take that as correct, doesn't that mean that they would have fought against the witch after their prime days? Meaning, we'd have to beat Reed in his prime.
Feels to me like that is going to either be really tough or nigh impossible.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be an exhausting mess. But I'm sure there'll be some way of getting around this if we come up with a plan. As things stand.
Subaru hesitated as he looked for anything that could help them against Reed. Right now, at this moment, he should have told Julius what was weighing on his mind, but he had not, because his heart had stopped him in his tracks. Yet he had been a little too slow.
As things stand, what do you mean?
It's nothing.
Subaru.
If he made any excuses saying that he had observed Reed and noticed the chink in his armor, they would be immediately spotted by him. In actual fact, right now, nothing that would let them get past Reed had been found, nor had anything that looked like a weak point. That was for sure. Thus, Subaru resigned himself upon having his name curtly called out.
Amelia passed the examination after you and Anastasia lost consciousness. That's all. The reason why she beat the guy down wasn't due to her being stronger than him. Let's just say that Lady Luck was at her side. Because Amelia is, well, unique like that.
It was a bit difficult to call her end result a mere victory. Amelia had just barely had her resolve and ability recognized by the examiner, Reed, in the examination. However, the circumstances that had led to her achieving that were hard to explain to anyone who had not witnessed them. Because even if they tried to beat him in the same way, it would not be possible by anyone other than Amelia.
Anyways, as a result of having various complex stuff click into place for her, Amelia cleared the examination. Despite that, the guy said that he'd only let those who cleared the examination pass through, so all of us will have to beat him to go upstairs. Rather wicked of him.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll need to work out a battle plan. Regardless of fighting dignity, I can't even talk unless I force him to recognize the fighting duo that is me and Beatrice. And as for Maylie, she has no reason to take the examination in the first place. I guess she'll understand after we talk about it. Though, I guess she'll be bummed out. That's why, well, you two won't be going in blind when we rematch him. I'm not stretching things here, I mean it. We won't tackle him like we did this time around. We'll work out a plan and a mode of approach after we have a far clearer picture of him. This time one which is in my style. Hey, are you listening? Hey, Julius!
Subaru felt suspicious that Julius had yet to reply to any of his rapid-fire explanations. With Julius still being slung over his back after he called out to him, Julius paused for a moment and then said,
Yeah, everything is fine. I am listening, of course. I see. Amelia-sama managed it.
Well, I mentioned that slightly earlier. But yeah. That happening means clearing the examination isn't a futile hope. Aren't you going too hard on yourself?
Too hard on myself? You really need not worry so much. Everything is exactly as you say. If Amelia-sama had been able to pass the examination, then then the Sword Saint, Reed, is not an insurmountable obstacle. Us knowing that is incredibly beneficial.
Yeah, right. That's right. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Julius had unexpectedly accepted the fact that Amelia had passed the examination rather flexibly. Subaru had nervously explained it to him, but he had sensed that Julius was sidestepping his question from his reaction. No, things were fine. Julius had been informed that someone had cleared the obstacle he had slammed face first into before him. But it was pointless for Julius to worry himself sick over that. Subaru could say that he was taking a bit too much of a naive look at him, or, by his own measure, he guessed that he should not have leapt to conclusions about the knight named Julius Juculius. As Subaru found himself embroiled by these profound feelings, Julius let out a long sigh and casually spoke out, saying,
So then, is it not high time you put me down? I am going to get motion sickness if I keep staying on your back. It is not as if you possess the divine protection of wind evasion like ground dragons do, correct?
Be patient with the breeze and all the swaying, and be grateful that I'm carrying you. It's true that it's tiring work, but I can't be so cold-hearted as to make you walk on your own when you're injured. Amelia Tan would tell me off.
Subaru shook his head at Julius' proposal and jiggled his body, readjusting Julius on his back. Julius was not in a good condition right now. At all. No matter how skilled the room's spirit was at its work, and how much treatment Julius, whose whole body had been knocked about, had been able to receive, he had only spent a few dozen minutes in the green room. That, and he had not been able to receive any treatment from his second defeat. Where he was suffering from injuries such as cuts or fractures, then Subaru could have put his skills into work with first aid treatment techniques of the Clint variety. But unfortunately, Julius had no such obvious wounds. Reed's blows had been the kind that had been devised to tear through Julius's heart. Of course, there did not seem to be any doubt that he had accumulated damage that was invisible on the surface, but that was no excuse to make him do anything that would exert him. That's why Subaru had resolved to go down the whole staircase with Julius on his back, with half of it remaining, probably about 200 more steps. Yet, despite that...
No, I cannot keep causing you trouble. It would be fine if I were still unconscious, but luckily I have regained my senses. I'm able to go down the rest of the stairs by myself.
Don't be so ridiculously stubborn. It's too late for that, even if you insist. If you're saying you're embarrassed about being seen carried on my back, everyone who was with me already saw that. Only Shawla and Anastasia didn't on account of having fainted.
Then that is the reason why. There is no way I can show myself like this to those two. Especially to Anastasia-sama. Put me down.
Don't say such false things. To start with, you...
I said put me down!
His outburst was quite abrupt.
Whoa!
Subaru's shoulder struck against the staircase wall straight after Julius' strained voice had thudded against his earlobe. That was thanks to Julius twisting himself off his back by force. Subaru had immediately turned to face the wall so that he would keep himself safe, but it would not have been unlikely if he ended up nearly falling down the stairs. However, he had avoided that fate thanks to his quick thinking.
You... fucking idiot! What the hell were you thinking?
He leaned against the wall, and when he turned around, he found Julius lying down a few stairs below him, having slid down after falling from Subaru's back. Face down on the ground, supporting himself on his elbows, wheezing in pain with a deep look of agony about him, clearly not only from falling down the stairs.
I told you to quit it! Hey, stay right there, you dumbass! I'm coming over to you!
You do not need to! I can stand by myself. I do not need you to aid me.
He tried to run down to him as quickly as he could, but halted. Julius had stretched out his hand in front of him as he propped himself up against the floor and stopped him from running over. Panting heavily still, he scrunched his face and managed to raise his body up. He leaned against the wall and slowly lifted his lower back, stretched his knees and stood up, though still using the wall to prop himself up.
See? Did I not tell you so? That it would be easy for me to stand by myself.
Subaru was at a loss for words at what Julius had said, who, in some respects, sounded like he was casting everything aside. Julius turned himself around and, with the right side of his body pressed up against the wall, began to slowly climb down the stairs at a speed similar to that of a baby crawling along the floor. One step at a time, as if he was forcing himself.
Looks like it shall take me a bit more time, but this way I will not cause you any trouble. More importantly, the girls downstairs should be worried. I'm grateful that you seem to be looking past that which I've done, but it was not just you who went out looking for where I was, right?
Slowly, step by step.
If possible, would you be able to go downstairs before me and explain to them what happened? Though I think it's probably best if you leave the full story and the apologizing to me. You're only required to tell them that you found me, to try to make them feel less worried.
Slowly, one step at a time.
I admit that apologizing is going to be plenty depressing, but avoiding that is a road I cannot walk down. After you calm the waters down, even if only a little, I shall really owe you a huge debt of gratitude. You know, You may even want to think about adding that to the debt I owe you.
Julius continued to speak without looking over at him as he tried to make his way down the staircase by himself. Indeed, a gap had started to form between him and the immobile Subaru, despite how slow he was going about it. He could not close the distance between them immediately if he so desired. If he were to grant his wish, he still needed to walk past him once, so Subaru set his feet into motion.
I guess I should speak to Amelia's side first.
Yeah. Oh, that is correct. If Anastasia-sama's woken up... Ah, wait, no, let's not. Anyways, I would like to depend on you.
Subaru hurried down the stairs and easily caught up to Julius. He let out a sigh that resembled one of relief as he heard Subaru's footsteps echoing around the staircase and encouraged him to vamoose off ahead. No, not vamoose off ahead. More like he had encouraged him to not wait up on me. Subaru could understand a little about what lay in Julius's innermost thoughts with what he had stated. The justification to that capacity of his was the same one as to why only he and no one else had immediately gotten the hunch that Julius had gone to challenge Reed. There was unmistakably something in common between that which Subaru had felt back then and this somewhat similar incident. That's why, back then, Subaru had.
God damn this! Damn this! Damn this! Damn this! Damn this fucking dumbass! We're both huge dumbasses, for fuck's sake!
Subaru spat out his frustrations, kicked the staircase, and then made his way towards Julius. He was not going to walk past him, who was now flustered as he leaned against the wall. Instead, he grabbed his left arm and propped him up by unceremoniously draping his arm over his shoulder.
Hey, Subaru, what are you...
Shut up! What are you doing? Standing up by yourself! It's plain as day to see that you're struggling to stand up straight! Like I'd ever be able to let myself prance off and leave a guy in your state here! I'd be first in line to say just how disgusted I am at myself before Amelia even has a chance to tell me off!
But I am...
This is me we're talking about. I wouldn't lend you a hand if you didn't really need one. Even under normal circumstances, my hands are always filled with this, that, and the other. If you seriously don't want to borrow my strength, then quit hobbling about so miserably! It's really trying my patience!
Julius remained silent as Subaru shouted at him with spittle flying from his mouth. As soon as Subaru saw that Julius hesitated in going against him, and that, for now, the latter had lost the strength to shake him off, as he had been doing, he started to walk again. While still lending his shoulder to Julius, whether he liked it or not. Julius had no time to go against him, now that he had set the pace like that.
I'm not going to act like I know or understand what's going through your heart. But right now, you needn't walk down those stairs, these long-ass stairs alone, all by yourself. I will lend you my shoulder, and I won't think of it as a debt either.
Talking about lending, borrowing, and debts was ridiculous. If he put it like that, then how much did he owe Julius? Surely his first debt to him would have started in the training ground at the royal castle. He knew the reason why Julius had challenged Reed, even though he knew victory was not reachable. He had acted the same as Subaru back then. Back then, Subaru had challenged Julius, even though he was aware a win was unattainable. No matter how many times he had been knocked down, no matter how many times he had been struck, he had picked himself up without learning this lesson and kept challenging him. Because back then, he had no other way to hurl out the tempestuous emotion that had been built up inside his heart than that. And back then, Subaru had ended up alone. At a place where everything had ended for him. At a place where he had argued with Amelia and where she had bid him her goodbyes. That had been agonizing. That had made him want to cry. So how could he leave Julius all alone on this staircase? His heart must be set ablaze, just like him back then. But unlike him, he still did not know where he could hurl out his tempestuous emotions.
Subaru,
What is it?
I am sorry.
Shut up.
He replied with that, hoping he would not perceive it as a fit of anger. And like that, the two of them slowly climbed down the staircase and made it back to the 4th floor. Amelia found them a little over 10 minutes later, clasping her chest in relief.
Yay!
Woo!
Woo!
Good job, Wolf.
So good.
Good
Oh,
job.
you too, dude.
How you
Good
guys
fucking job.
doing?
That was amazing.
God
I
damn.
get way too stuttery at a mic. Weird.
It's all good.
You all
Fix it in
right?
post.
Yeah, though I spilled a liter of tea on my desk doing that.
No!
Oh,
Yeah, don't put large amounts of liquid on your computer. It's working. No fire yet, right? So I think
Holy
I'm gonna
shit,
get a
Just hear an
towel.
explosion.
Calm.
No fire. Yeah. Do you hear
No
a
fire,
disconnect sound?
just cuts off.
Fuck.
I think everything's fine.
I think we're in the.
Pachi Pachi, everybody.
Oh my god.
Excellent chapter.
I like Sad Julius.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like Sad Julius.
Julius
I
times.
love Julius's and Subaru's relationship so much. It's one of my favorite male friendships in all of fiction. I just love whenever they are vulnerable like this to each other. It's just so it feels so authentic to how like actual dude friends talk to each other.
Dude friends.
One of them is always
Yeah.
angry at the other one when they're vulnerable, though.
Yeah.
Like, they're never both vulnerable at the same time.
Yeah.
No.
They're like, how
Can
dare
you
you
walk
ask me
the
to do this
fuck in?
for you? Like, never.
Yeah.
Or,
Fucker.
God, you're such an idiot. Never, just stop. They can't be vulnerable together. One has to be aggressive. I think that works for them.
The tension, the yaoi I've read, fanfic I've read.
No, okay, leading like that's crazy. Oh,
Sorry,
$1 billion
What level
I
of
voiced that.
stress are these yaoi?
My Twitter feed is just, I don't even look for it. It just gives it to me. And this chapter is
Well,
literally
clearly
a
it's giving it
piece-
to you for a reason, isn't it?
I don't say
yeah,
that.
it's
I
hitting
don't
you with the
look
I
for
know
it.
what you are.
Siri
just-
listening in on you.
I just gotta post these chapters on Twitter, and that whole community will be here in a second. You're welcome. That was
I
really
know
good,
what
though.
you
I think everyone's crushing it. Like we're really in the groove,
Yeah.
as a Blade I'd
Everyone's
say.
Yeah.
locked in today.
Fucking
We're
locked
just
in.
so good.
Lots of really good emotional character moments. I think because the thing about Arc 5 is, right, like there's lots of shocking and surprising like cliffhanger moments, but there isn't as much of depth of emotion as there is in like the rest of the series. And I think Arc 6, now we're starting to get to this point, is starting to capture those more complex character emotions after the setup has been all done.
I wonder if that will become a trend.
Do-do-do! Whee!
But yeah, well done, lads. You did a great job there with the acting. Like, fair play to you. That was very, very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
It freaked out the dog.
Julius bends his knee
Oh,
and
did I
loses
scare
his
the dog?
sword.
What
What is left for him?
what is left for him?
I auditioned for Julius to get to this moment.
It was
Justice for
amazing,
this
Connor.
chapter.
And here we are. How do you feel now that your peak is concluded for the time being?
Like I've reached the heavenly sword.
Well, please don't leave now. Just because you got what you
And then he was
wanted.
never heard from again.
Fuck.
You just hear the Discord leaving sound.
My time has come.
Now, goodbye.
Yeah, deletes all accounts.
Cuts to him on a
Now
floor
I
with,
must
like, a full
go.
beard.
My people need me.
Change the world.
Then you do
My
the
final
Lorax thing.
message.
Pull your tail.
Goodbye.
Fly away.
I hereby state my last will and Reverie testament that I leave all roles, position, responsibilities to Al. Good luck, buddy.
Out of the basement. Oh, drag.
He was training you this entire time.
Yeah. That's what the basement arc is for.
The basement arc.
The basement arc.
What? The basement?
Oh yeah, it's been a whole thing.
Okay,
Al
you
is
missed a
we keep
lot.
him locked in the basement.
Yeah, I'm stuck.
Oh,
Help.
no. Why did they do that to you? Why?
We're in the
I
same
can't say
basement.
that. I have a binding NDA.
Binding
I mean, it's
NDA.
good acoustics, yeah.
Yeah, but
We
you
call
didn't
them
lock me
ropes.
in there, Kyles.
No,
It's
I
good
didn't.
acoustics. Fuck.
Yeah, that's what I said at first. I was like, I didn't lock Pat in there. He was just there. And then everyone's
And
like,
a
oh, we get locked
soda.
in their basement. I was like, what the fuck?
I was more
No,
like, you know,
they're
just...
not telling you this, chat, but we're all stuck in the basement at times.
It's comfy. It's a little
It is
musty.
remarkably comfy.
Yeah, this is not
I mean,
Discord.
jokes
we're
on
in the
you.
same
sometimes
room.
Our
I
basement
just
doesn't
need
even
a
have
break.
a fucking door. There's
That's
nothing to lock you
true.
out. You're free. You've been fooled. You've been had.
There's not even.
It's like a
door.
psychological barrier,
Yeah,
you
the
know?
basement
It's
was in your
like a
heart.
mental block.
All this time.
Yeah. You're just gripped down here. Thank you, Valtsu, for saying the thumbnail goes hard. I tried my best. Haha! Alright, everybody. Should we wrap up with
Yes.
chapter 30?
Yes.
Yes.
This...
Yes.
Woo woo!
One last one to take us home.
Alright, this is Pat's chapter now. Yes, yes.
You got it, Pat.
Yes.
And we all come
Whoa,
on
no.
back.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Oh, don't whip me.
Welcome back to the front lines.
Get going.
Okay, I'll do as I'm told.
When you're ready, everyone good to go?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, boss.
Hi. Bossu.
Arc 6. Oh. Arc 6. Arc 6, Chapter 30. The second floor's capture strategy post-mortem. A woman, a sole woman, existed. She worried about people, about conflict, about the world, about absolutely everything. To the woman, everything appeared minuscule. To her, everything, everyone, was a child who needed protection. Such a fragile world, with such fragile people, would be so easy to subjugate with a display of her abilities. But the woman sought to brandish her arms not to control this world. Instead, she sought to shelter it from harm. And thus, the woman's lonesome struggle commenced. The trial and error that followed for the woman was not a facile. Showing people the way, bringing people together, lending people a helping hand, giving people advice. All this was beyond the reach of a single woman. Her hand could not grasp it. What needed to be done was unattainable. For the first time, the woman cursed the scarcity of her own power. Even if she saw distress, she was short on helping hands. Even if she came across a predicament, she could do nothing to give relief because of the lack of ability. She could reach what laid in front of her, but she could not cross an impossible distance. Even if she could see through everything, her past could not be amended. There was no life to deal with the faraway calamity. The power she believed in was present. That was not nearly enough for her wish to pass. The wisdom she was proud of was present. That was not good enough for the path towards her wish to be made apparent. And thus, the woman fell into despair. The malediction of her own lack of ability was realized over and over again, with the lamentations of others tearing her up to infinity. All kinds of remorse struck her. Finally, the woman understood. She could not. There was no way. It was impossible. The exorbitant, lofty wish was unattainable, especially for one lonesome woman. She knew, she realized, she understood. Her wish was impossible. But even so, she would not forfeit. If one person was not enough, then that number would be increased. Simply by not being alone, by finding others who share her desires, The unfulfilled wish would be grasped by their hands. Her mind felt cleansed. The once hazy path had finally become clear. Her wish could finally address those inexorable laments, those unsalvageable tragedies that repeated cruelty. She joined forces with the instigator, bequeathed the battlefield to the heavenly sword, made a deal with the dragon, and pushed onwards towards her greatest wish. The fulfillment of her utmost wish would eventually be attained. The terminus of her vow should finally be reached. The denouncement of her great wish would, without fail, eventually, finally, arrive.
Saved. The way to save them. I can see it. The path to salvation.
No matter how much hurt laid ahead in this process, even if she lost herself, abandonment must simply be abandoned. Even if her instigator were to disappear, even if her heavenly sword smile were to vanish forever, even if her dragon were to levant to faraway skies, she could not surrender. Even if her first allies left her side, her footsteps would not cease, for the once lonesome woman was no longer alone.
It has to be there. I know it is there. I must know.
She treaded a road paved with countless corpses, designating a multitude of lives as sacrifices. She moved towards grasping her greatest aspiration. One day, her hands would be capable of reaching each and every tear. At such a moment, the world would be understood. For the first time, the origin of her wish was close enough to grasp. So, with a desperate wish, bearing excruciating despair, the woman struggled. The witch of greed bled her own avarice, herself aflame for her unfulfilled wish.
Julius has to properly rest here until all of his wounds heal. This is the most absolute of most absolutes.
Particularly throwing a very worn down Julius into the green room, Emilia scolded him. She had gone to meet them, having a sigh of relief upon seeing Super with Julius, supported by his shoulder. As they came down the long stairs connecting the second floor, Electra, and the fourth floor. To be able to switch between emotions quickly was indeed a virtue, and they were thankful she did not pry into the matter further. It was a clever move, as there was no reason to prepare an excuse if one did not ask for a reason. Even if, in truth, Emilia had a mountain of things to ask Julius.
Even if I don't, I'm sure Subaru has said what he needed to be said. So, I'm going to have you rest properly, and everything can come after. Right?
Yeah, pretty much. There's nothing I can say against that. And I don't plan on going against Emilia Tan's opinions. Get some sleep.
Subaru put Julius down on a bed of ivy near the entrance of the green room. Beside him, both hands on her waist, Emilia proudly puffed air through her nostrils. That was a cute gesture. After hearing what the two had to say, Julius brushed over his bangs and sighed.
Naturally, I am already putting a burden on you and Emilia-sama. Even after all this, I can no longer act with such shamelessness. I shall obey.
Man, just a simple got it will be enough here.
That's right. There's no need for that formality stuff. Julius is the one who's injured. So it's just a matter of you staying put until your injuries are healed. It's completely fine to be a burden. We're friends after all. Patricia, I'm leaving Julius in your care. If anything goes wrong, just cry out loud. We'll come running, okay?
Slashing away at Julius's roundabout way of showing gratitude, Emilia called out to the corner of the room. Beyond the ashamed Julius,
where Patricia was healing her own wounds. The head count of the green room increased to 3 people and 1 animal. The unconscious duo of Rem and Anastasia, and the wounded duo of Julius and Patricia, because the green room had a limit on how many people could remain present at a time. Subaru and Amelia could not remain to keep an eye on them. Thus, it was better for one of the injured members to keep an eye on everyone else. Normally that job would go to Julius. However,
To have Amelia-sama insist this much, I shall lose face. I will quietly do as I'm told.
It's kind of tough to get back trust once you've lost it. So, in that respect, it's kind of hard to get past Patricia. He's always scoring full points for trust. If there's any funny business going on, it's fine to not hold back and bite him, Patricia.
She snorted as a sign of accepting Subaru and Amelia's words. Or at least, it could be taken as such. The best girl of the Amelia camp, their own understanding lady, Patricia, seemed to feel a sort of responsibility towards Julius for letting him leave alone just now. Her eyes shone with a strong will, as if to say that there would not be a next time.
Look! Even Patricia is going, "Thou shalt not pass the next time!"
You know what? It's very strange, but you're right. She does look like she's saying that.
But, according to our bilingual warrior grade internal affairs minister, more or less, the nuance is right. But, since she's a lady, she might end her sentences with a desu wa, you know?
Sometimes, whenever Otto translated for her using his divine protection of the soul of language, Subaru almost always found Patricia's high level of tolerance towards his actions to be astonishing. Recently, he had felt that even without Otto's presence, the two could communicate what was on their minds. But whenever that fact was brought up, Patricia would beat him with her tail. Indeed, the mind of a woman was complex, in any case.
I will quietly devote myself to having my wounds heal at this place. Recuperating while being surrounded by such beautiful girls in a serene environment is a luxury one can rarely afford, after all.
I'll let you know beforehand, all the girls here, except for Anastasia, belong to me.
Subaru pointed out, starting with the bedridden Rem, then Patricia, then to Amelia, who was right beside him, in retort to Julius' impudent statement. Upon hearing that, Amelia's cheeks puffed up and...
I'm not Subaru's yet, but I did give it some thought. And since Subaru is my knight, wouldn't that just make him mine?
That makes me really happy, but also really embarrassed.
Amelia put her finger to her lips while Subaru gave a celebratory dance, the latter overwhelmed by the bold remarks he had just heard. But after all that, he looked back towards Julius. It would take time for him to overcome his anguish, but, at the very least, he ought to have the heart to take the first step up that long hill.
Well, anyhow, while you're resting, you might want to hold your head and roll around while thinking over the stuff that just happened. But don't forget that Patricia's watching.
You may be at ease. I will not display such shamelessness. It would be very inelegant of me.
Feels like you're getting better already.
With the answer being very like him, Subaru's cheeks loosened with a soft smile. He bore 2 defeats where he could not accomplish a single thing. The fact should have brought him intolerable humiliation and helplessness, but he seemed to have surpassed that first wave of emotions. Subaru felt glad that he had not been left alone on that long stairway. If it could give him even the tiniest bit of salvation, it would mean that Subaru had truly learned something from his time of being publicly humiliated at the royal castle back then.
Patricia, I'll leave this in your hands.
At the very end, Subaru gave his beloved dragon a reminder before both he and Amelia exited the green room. Upon their departure, Patricia got up and took a seat nearer to Julius, in a position to better keep him under her watch. Seeing that, Julius put on a bitter smile. Indeed, Patricia was a wise dragon, faithful to her instructions. Considering her spirit and Julius's mental condition in mind, it was safe to assume that the members of the green room would be okay.
Should I freeze the door just in case?
I'm always pretty amazed by Amelia Tan's boundless imagination. But let's leave that as a last resort thing, yeah? Don't want to anger the spirit in that room either.
You're right. I just wanted to see what you'd say. I was just joking.
Cutely sticking out her tongue, Amelia apologized. Seeing that, Subaru pursed his lips, deciding not to tell her that he'll keep that as a possible option. Worst case scenario, he would consider blocking any action via brute force. In that case, the best person to stop Julius would still be Amelia, speaking both from her position and from a power perspective. Fortunately, because Julius's mental state was stabilizing, Subaru felt relieved that there was no need to take such measures.
Anyhow, let's leave the matters of the Green Room to its resident spirit. From what I saw, Patrice's wounds seem to be healing really nicely, so Julius will get up back soon too.
That's right. Julius's injuries. They weren't as bad as they looked. I think he'll be back to full health in no time. Raid made it like that, I guess.
Good at going easy, huh? Can't really let Julius hear that stuff, eh?
Subaru agreed to how Amelia worded her guess while scratching his head. While having absolute mastery over chopsticks sounded like a bad joke, to be able to play around with someone as strong as Julius like he was a baby. Reed's battle prowess needed no explanation. The first generation sword saint, the man who defeated the Witch of Envy, alongside the Sage and the Dragon. In the face of such a legendary man, one had no choice but to nod their heads and accept things as they were. But whether his personality was befitting someone bearing the title of legendary hero was a different matter entirely.
For now, our first topic would be
To find a way to clear that pesky second examination, or whatever, before the wounds of the knight Julius heal. Correct?
A cold voice cut into Subaru and Amelia's conversation. Ram, standing with her back leaning against the wall of the hallway, having been waiting for them to return. Caught out by the limitations of the number of people in the green room, Ram had been waiting in the hall, having his innermost concerns spilled by her. Subaru rubbed his cheeks.
Is my face really of the variety that it gives away everything I'm thinking so accurately?
I just put together whatever worries were on your face. The things Barsu would be worried about right now all lay inside of that room. That is all there is to it.
Hell! That's not even close! I'm worried about everyone! Obviously including Amelia Tan and Bayako, but I'm also concerned about you, Naysama. It's not just limited to the people occupying that room.
Ram ridiculed Subaru's thumbs up with a snort. Subaru looked on with a sulky appearance, lips pursed in a pout, as Ram began walking away with her back to him. Amelia covered her mouth as she giggled right beside him and...
It's okay. Ram just got a little flustered. She's just not really honest.
I feel like you're really biased here, but if Amelia Tan says it, well...
Watching her form from the side, Subaru turned and cracked his neck, before chasing after Ram. Ram was heading towards one of the smaller rooms of the 4th floor. Upon stepping inside that room...
You're late, I suppose. Kept us waiting for too long, in fact. Julius is doing fine, I suppose?
The voice that welcomed them was that of Beatrice, coming from the dead center of this room, where she was sitting. Looking straight up at Subaru and Amelia, she showered light abuse, with a bit of worry for Julius mixed in. Subaru bitterly smiled at that dishonest attitude of hers.
Don't worry. Seems that the worst is past him for now. He's got a pointlessly strong sense of responsibility, so he'll be reflecting on what he did, I'm sure. Well, he won't be causing any problems anytime soon.
It should be fine to take those words at face value, in fact. That way, our problems can be narrowed down to just one, I suppose.
After discerning Julius's condition, Beatrice pulled in her chin. Nodding at her words, Subaru moved his eyes over the room. The small room was one of many on the 4th floor of the watchtower, and was also the one that contained all the luggage of Subaru and the others Watchtower's capture group. In that room, they all sat down in a circle, with Subaru and Beatrice facing Amelia and Ram respectively. With that,
I need you to tell me more about that bastard, Shawla.
Master's looking really scary. But I don't hate it when you step on me like that either. It's a love-hate thing.
As she says, Master. Disgusting.
I object!
wrapping her arms around her voluptuous feminine body, Shala squirmed while Melee sat atop her lap. Ram took her crazy behavior too literally, but to Subaru, those false charges were too much to take. Anyway.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for helping with looking for Julius. Even if we were told not to, the guy will likely come around later to apologise himself. So, for now, he's fine.
It's fine. I said that to Julius too. But I'm just glad we found him safe and sound. I'm sure everyone else feels the same way, right?
I would prefer to not have my opinion be the same as Amelia-sama's.
Say what now?
Subaru had attempted to lead the conversation forward, but it quickly seemed that there was a difference of opinion between Ram and Amelia. Ram pointed her finger towards a surprised Amelia and started.
Please listen carefully. As far as I've been told, the second examination needs to be overcome by everyone present in the tower. And yet, the knight Julius took matters into his own hands, without consulting any of us, and made a second attempt by himself. If there was a single misstep here, it could have broken down the cooperative relationship we have built between Anastasia-sama's faction and ours.
Because from Julius's actions alone, all of us could have been disqualified?
If that were the case, our entire journey would have been for nothing. It's also uncertain whether the examiner of the second floor would even let us go safely. That includes the fake sage Shala over there.
Ram's eyes took a glance at Shala while she was explaining everything to Amelia. Perhaps she had not considered that she would be a topic of conversation. So, she pointed to herself and asked,
Me? Does fake sage mean me? That's really unthinkable calling me that. I've never called myself a sage. The only name I give is the one Master gave to me, and that's Shala. I'm devoted to my one and only Master.
Disgusting.
Stop looking at me and saying that! I won't deny what you're saying.
Putting the excessive things aside, considering what could be the worst case scenario, Ram's assumptions could not be put to rest. Julius's actions had put everyone at risk. Even if he had not completely grasped the gist of the second examination, or rather because he had a complete understanding of the situation, his actions were even more careless.
That it was unlike the knight Julius is something I, who barely knows the man, cannot say. But, taking even gluttony into account, I thought of him as a person who would not do such things.
Well, I do agree with that. But my line of thinking is a bit different than that, since I know the guy. I chalk it up to being manly measles.
Measles?
Should I have said chickenpox instead?
In any case, it had the nuance of a disease everyone had caught at least once in their lives. As such, measles or chickenpox could easily be compared with Julius's actions and would be easier to digest. But catching either in adulthood could have serious consequences, especially as it could be fatal.
That it wasn't fatal. This time. Let's just be happy with that and let him off.
I just do not want to be pulled back by others.
Ram looked away from Subaru and whispered, her voice low. Seeing her cheeks stiffen, Subaru raised his eyebrows.
It seems that the elder of the sisters hasn't been feeling too well ever since she came to the tower, in fact. Maybe the fatigue of a long journey has finally caught up to her. Or maybe the horn therapy is not working as well for her, I suppose.
Or maybe there's something else that's bothering her. Heck, that's probably it.
Sitting right next to him with hands held, Subaru and Beatrice whispered to one another. To take out her frustrations of Julius's actions and To take out her frustrations of Julius' actions and irritation of being unable to see a way to clear the examinations on Subaru and Shala was very far from Ram's usual behavior. It was likely that the source of that frustration came from looking at the method of saving Rem in the face, yet being unable to reach for it. Of course, it would be wrong to say that the fatigue of the injured horns pointed out by Beatrice weren't unrelated to that. Both my mind and body were unwell. All of those were the likely factors working behind Ram's outburst.
Well, do you guys just want to fight here, or would you guys want to get the chat moving? If you don't decide soon, I'm not gonna be taking part, you know?
In an instant, Mealy put a stop to the worsening condition of the place. Snuggling beside Shala, fingers playing with her braids, she lazily scanned everyone present in the room.
Please stop fighting if you can, Kay! I don't like it, getting hurt or being afraid!
No, you're right. That bystander position of yours saves us a lot.
Is that so? Then please be grateful, Kay!
In the face of his gratitude, Melee smiled innocently like the young girl she was. However, that smile of hers also had a bewitching allure to it, subtly describing her dangerous nature. Even in the face of that smile, Subaru offered his gratitude to her. Thinking back, it had been Mealy who had suggested retreating from the examination from before as well. Having someone as a companion who was able to tell when to retreat depending on the situation was a big plus.
Keep it up, alright? It's important to look at things with composure.
You're really feeling good, huh? Even if you say things like that, my job's done. When we get out of this Sensi, right? I'm not good for anything else anyway.
Not how I see it, though. Having more heads together, thinking helps a lot. And combined with us getting out of the Sansi alive while in the tower, we all got to share our lot with each other. Just think that you're out of luck and get depended on by me.
She was taken aback by Subaru's outright declaration of leaning on her. Mealy let out a long sigh and...
I'm starting to see why Petra-chan doesn't feel at ease around you.
Huh? Petra, what now?
It's nothing. That aside, don't you want to ask the naked Onesama some stuff?
Turning her face away, Mealy stood up and began shoving Shala's back. Probably not because of the strength of her tiny arms, Shala cheerfully came forward and took a seat right in front of Subaru, sitting on her knee and slightly bowed down her head.
I may be slightly inexperienced, but I leave myself in your care.
That's a very admirable attitude you have there. Well, now moving on to the matter of wedding gifts. Ouch! 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 Immediate on! Bayako! Why are you two pinching both of my sides?
No reason.
It's nothing, in fact.
Even if they said there was no reason for it, they both wanted to do something more than just pinch his sides, but hesitated to escalate things further. Anyhow, Subaru coughed to get everything back on track, then approached Shala again.
The guy from above is unmistakably Reed Estrella. The man admitted it himself. So, I ask you, a living witness from that time, to enlighten us. What kind of guy was he?
Human trash.
I heard you the first time, and heck, I even saw it in action.
Twisting her lips, she displayed an expression unbecoming of a lady as beautiful as her as she reminisced about the dead. Putting aside the same deceased person was present in the same building, just some floors above. The memory she had of him seemed to be unpleasant, definitely. Well, she had fainted at the very sight of him, mouth bubbling and all, so that came as no surprise.
We gotta get past him, no matter what. I'd love to get even a single hint on how to get past the second floor's examination.
So please, tell us anything and everything about him. The Sword Saint reads personality, habits, relationships, likes, dislikes, weaknesses. Right, we want to know his weaknesses. Talk.
Whoa, you're coming on to me really fast. If I knew what his weakness was, I'd be stabbing back at him. In other words, he doesn't have a weakness.
Useless.
You little girl acting like you're hotter stuff than Master.
Maybe she did have her pride as a sage, but she seemed to take offense to Ram's high and mighty attitude. However, she shrugged at Ram's glare, moving herself behind Subaru to use him as a shield.
The hell are you doing? Hiding? You're definitely stronger than her.
It's not about who's stronger or who's weak. Somehow my instincts are telling me to do this. Maybe it's Master who's scared. The scared feeling's getting to me because we're one mind, one body.
Don't blame your lack of nerves on me.
Unable to compose himself due to the feeling of something soft pressing against his back, Subaru grabbed Shala's neck and pulled her unwilling body back to its original position, and thus the Q&A session would resume.
In the end, Shala doesn't know much about the examination, right? It's not that I don't know. It's just, I know it's not time to tell everything yet. I think everything's going to be revealed when the mystery of the tower is solved. Is that how it is? I feel really excited.
Don't play around with the naive Amelia, Ton.
Even if you do not know the Sword Saint's weaknesses, he has habits, right? If he has a fighting pattern, for example, we might be able to come up with a way to fight against it.
Habits, huh? Oh, that's right. Whenever I tried to kill him for sexual harassment, he had the nerve to scratch his ass while defending himself. Isn't that a pattern?
He was just making fun of you.
In the place, the condition for clearing the examination is vague, I suppose. There was no doubt Amelia was acknowledged. There must be another condition, the fulfillment of which gains acknowledgement as well, in fact.
I think he's weak to pretty girls. If a pretty girl passes by, it might help.
That means Julius and I will have to be left behind. That's a pretty tough condition.
Might be able to get by if he tries his best, like by blinding him. Definitely, that way. I think he might maybe really get through, I suppose.
You're so damn cute, you.
And amidst the many unnecessary and unhelpful questions and answers, with Beatrice managing to keep Subaru away from being wounded, he caught her in a hug and was presently patting her head, whilst in his arms, letting herself be spoiled by him.
In any case, Amelia just happened to succeed, in fact. Simple coincidence. That man just happened to let his guard down, and she just happened to be able to hit him, I suppose.
And how do you suppose that happened?
If Amelia was looking to kill, that man would not have gotten hit, in fact. Thus, it was that man's carelessness, which led to Amelia's victory, I suppose.
Huh? Just now, was I praised?
Did praise you, in fact.
Just like I thought. Thank you. It makes me really happy.
Amelia rejoiced at Beatrice's compliment and began stroking her head too while Subaru was already doing so. It was a rather messed up situation, but still there was something to laugh and be happy about.
Man. Anyway, it's pretty cool to think that his ability to counter depends on the amount of intent to kill. The reality of it is like that, How serious you are about it.
You should put it the other way around. Just as Barasu says, if you do not understand how serious an enemy is, it is best not to let them get serious.
You shouldn't make them get serious?
Picking up on her mutterings, Subaru frowned at Ram. Upon questioning her, she fell into deep thought for a while before answering with a, "That is correct."
Amelia-sama was acknowledged because she forced a concession out of the examiner and met his conditions. The conditions for clearing this examination are quite fickle, aren't they?
I feel the same about the fuzzy details of the conditions. They reflect the examiner's disposition pretty well.
That is why I believe it is best to entertain the examiner, and while doing so, present conditions which could be used for the examination. On top of that, one has to defeat the examiner to advance to the second floor.
Taking in Ram's words, Subaru felt he understood it a bit better. Emilia had proposed the condition that he would not move a single step. Then, through a hefty load of effort, coupled with a tiny sprinkle of luck, she had grasped victory. Factoring in Reed's carelessness, it was a victory with the loosest of conditions. To gain victory through physical prowess should be considered impossible after this.
Even if I go with that, it's not like he'd agree to fight me in a match of rock, paper, scissors, huh?
So we've got to find a condition that'll convince Reed to accept them? And then do our best? Just as I thought. This examination is a difficult exam that needs to be given some thought.
Rather than being difficult, I'd say this is a different kind of harassment compared to the third floor.
The first was a test of wisdom, of knowledge not found in this world. And now came what was thought to be the test of power, on the level of the world's strongest. But there must be something else that was the main topic of this examination. In other words, while the second floor's examination was different from the third floor, it was an indisputable fact that the nature of these two examinations showed the depth of the wickedness of the Watchtower's creator, the elusive sage. Next up...
Isn't it fine this way? Just take it easy. No need to be going such a hurry.
Slowly, you say?
Yola looked over everyone busy with their own thoughts. Then, while sitting cross-legged, leaned left to right. She spoke in a casual way. In response, Subaru and the others frowned at her. But she took it all in stride while indulging in the fun feeling that showed on her sparkling eyes.
I'm hoping Master and everyone else just stays here forever and ever and ever. I've been waiting for Master to come back for hundreds of years, so...
That's...
You guys can take as long as you want, as long as you like, to clear the examinations. I'll be watching over you always, no matter how many days, years, or even hundreds of years it takes.
These words that could not be laughed away, because of the weight they carried. In the light tone and soft smile she gave to everyone, no, to Subaru alone, for whom she bore a heavy, heavy love. The weight of hundreds of years. The weight of being told by the sage to live in the Watchtower, and to protect it. Shala had said it was forbidden to leave the tower without finishing the examinations, and if that were violated, then she would display no mercy, even if it were her beloved master, even if the current target of her affections, Subaru. Even if words of love were proclaimed, even if an amicable relationship were maintained. That did not mean they would be allies. The Starkeeper of the Pleiades Watchtower, Shala, was yet but another.
It's fine just to stay here and have fun with me.
As one realized from her smile, it was an obstacle for the ones who wished to clear the examinations.
Hey! Good job, Pat.
Excellent work.
Woo!
Got you to work on
Nice.
your first day back.
Yeah, I had the nastiest of burps building up for one of the long parts there. I'm just glad it did not come out.
Same.
Oh, never mind.
Wahoo!
Ooh.
Shala's
You think,
so sad. So
Reed
sad.
would accept the. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying Shala's life is so sad.
Yeah.
What life?
Yeah. But
Sorry, what were you
Well, the
saying?
way
seems to be a theme.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I wonder if Reed would accept a drinking match.
Oh yeah.
Probably.
I think so.
Oh
think
my
he
god,
just
he's
is-
gonna secretly be a lightweight or something.
Yeah, because I'd say for sure probably not rock paper scissors, but maybe a drinking match.
And that's how Heinkel could win.
Exactly.
Or he like
Exactly.
somehow
There we
uses the
go.
heavenly sword to cut the concept of alcohol out of the drink and then drink it.
Yeah, he cuts the concept of getting drunk.
Hmm.
It's just Captain Americaing it. His liver just works too fast because it's too powerful.
he can see faster.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle somehow.
I
still
wonder if
wins.
you could beat him in a game of strip poker. He only has
think
two
he-
things on.
Yeah.
He only needs to win twice.
I think he'd be
Yeah.
too motivated to win that, though.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
only need to win 2 hands, and then you're good.
He's only gonna want to play Shala.
Most likely so.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that would
she's
be
not
equal
wearing
terms,
much either.
yeah.
Yeah.
If he can cut like
That's-
itself, I'm sure he can figure out a way to cheat really fucking easily.
Mm.
I don't think he's smart enough to cheat.
No, I don't think
He's
he's
probably just
smart.
gonna
I
be
think
going,
he just
like-
brute force his way through it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ever
but
heard of
there's
the
a-
Gordian knot?
There's a point where you can't. That's the part of the fun of poker, is everyone's on the same playing field, unless you know how to play, which he definitely doesn't.
Bro can't count.
This is where
cards.
Heinkel needs to
That's
come in and
no.
be the gambling master.
Yeah. Proof he is the
All right,
number one
Reed.
I'm
Are
gonna
my
make
test?
you proud
I
like I
want
can
to-
never make my daddy proud.
I'm gonna roll this dice. Okay. What do you?
I win on a 6.
Okay, Reed. I'm going for a coin flip.
Heinkel's got like the most
And who
obviously
tails?
weighted dice ever.
Two faces, double
Yeah,
ended
I'll
coin.
just. You just don't test it though. You don't show
All
him how it
sides have
rolls.
6 on it.
Still loses.
I'm betting on this being a 6. Yeah, he somehow
think-
like while you're rolling the dice, he cuts a new number onto one of the faces somehow.
Or he like shaves it off mid-flight so it lands on his face.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, we've been
Based.
going for 3 hours. and
Yeah.
I don't think there's too much to discuss after this last
Damn.
one. It's probably time to call it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I need
everybody.
to lay down and rest.
We'll see you all again
That's a lot of lines.
Wednesday.
Yeah, for the end of the phase.
Yeah.
Yeah!
Oh,
Under
yeah,
the
how-
phase again!
It's just a phase.
It's
I
just a
think that
phase,
is his
mom!
nickname.
No, please, Mom.
It's not freaking phase, mom.
By the way, Tayaldi, great tip with the oil.
Oh, it works.
Yeah, because
Nice.
specifically my tongue was really dry, so I just like put 2 drops of olive oil on it, and suddenly it got way easier talking.
Oh hell yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's freaking go.
The
Now we know the
sacrifices we have to
secret.
make.
There you go.
Just drink oil.
Oil up.
No,
before you
no,
do
no, no,
something.
no, no, no.
Yummy.
It has no
No,
calories.
no, 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 no. That's not what I said. No, 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 no.
Advice,
Goodbye.
we will leave you
does.
next time.
Bye,